Greetings. I'm your host, Jason Miles, here for another episode of This is Revolution Podcast. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for taking the time to check us out. If you are a returning listener, subscriber, patron, thank you so much for tuning back in. I want to thank all of the guests and all the good people that took time out of their busy schedules to be a part of the week of shows that was TIR. We kicked off the week early, 6 a.m. Pacific early, continuing our limited morning series with Deep State Cuba, What Fresh Hell, where Cuba gives a deep dive into the geopolitical situation at hand and takes your questions. Tuesday, I was joined by professor and author Robin Anderson and discussed her latest book, The Complicit Lens, how U.S. mainstream media works to create alternate narratives in regards to the Israeli genocide of Palestinians. That show was followed by another marathon champagne room where MT and I discussed who gets to say
"We coming for you, nigga."
Exactly. We did. And then all white patrons that sent a super chat of $20 or more were granted an N-word pass that allowed the holder of said pass to exclaim the controversial word one time in a crowd of N-words, but only if it was exclaimed as a term of endearment. Wednesday, Mac and I discussed the rise in popularity and the dangers of backyard fighting. That show was followed by a new movie night where we watched the 1988 methodical slow burn horror thriller Pinned. Thursday, I was joined by music legends John LaMantia of Candiria and Mike Mayer of avant rap duo Dialect in another episode of Chronicles of a Working Class Rock Star. That episode was followed by a champagne room where we were able to dig into the artists' catalogs and listen to some of the music that was mentioned on the main show. All these shows are up to view on our YouTube channel, and we have playlists in chronological order of all these shows. So make sure when you're done here, you take time to check those out if you missed them. At TIR, we pride ourselves by not churning out disposable content. We try to create programming that is thoughtful, challenging, political, cultural, historical, irreverent, and at times downright chaotic, in what we hope is in the best way possible. We cover the stories and ideas that matter, not always the ones that trend. We bring you conversations rooted in analysis and solidarity and intellectual curiosity. And we do it without selling out to the algorithm and without trying to become another outrage factory. But none of this happens without you, the patrons, the supporters, the people who tune in, share, argue, question, and help keep this show alive. It is your contributions, large and small, that make TIR possible. So if you do enjoy what we do here, then consider becoming a patron or a paid YouTube subscriber. For as little as $3 a month or a one-time payment of $30 for the year, you can have access to movie nights, champagne rooms, the crisis papers. That the newest edition is up right now is The Music in the Blood, where we take a look at race essentialism in music, or our weekly newsletter. And you get the satisfaction of knowing that your small donation is a major part of keeping TIR on the air. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get to why you guys are here in the first place. Let's talk a little crisis of masculinity. Recently, 21-year-old influencer and now pop culture phenomenon Clavicular was seen overdosing on a live stream. Clavicular, whose real name is Braden Peters, appeared in a state of confused euphoria, possibly on ketamine or ecstasy, before ultimately passing out as the video feed cut off. Peters has since become the center of attention as both establishment and alternative media attempt to figure out what makes him tick and what fuels his popularity. Some of these interviews have ended abruptly, with Peters shutting down any line of questioning he feels might cast him in a negative light or become easily clipped for mainstream and social media reels. Not all press, that's good press. Peters is often presented by the media as a young man who has branded himself as the contemporary Ubermensch. His Looksmaxxing, including the now infamous hammer to the face imagery and references to meth use, has journalists poking and prodding him as if he were a research subject. Yet there is no real trend of young people smashing their faces with hammers or smoking meth in pursuit of a sunken cheek aesthetic, just as there were never a genuine wave of teens eating Tide Pods like candy or forming satanic covens in the name of Ozzy Osbourne. These narratives make for great headlines, but the reality is far less sensational. Young people are often less shocking and more emotionally fractured than the media suggests, and examining Peters doesn't necessarily provide a clear lens into what many are calling the crisis of masculinity. Over the last 30 years, the idea of the stoic, emotionless man has been challenged and often denigrated as a harmful idea that stunts male growth and maturity. Expressions once coded as unmasculine, men hugging their sons, painting their nails, now coexist with a manosphere driven aesthetic centered on grooming, fitness, and image, often paired with a heavy dose of misogyny. So, what does it mean to be a man when young people are caught between competing models? One that exalts curated good looks and six packs, and another that encourages emotional vulnerability, yet is often perceived as socially disadvantageous. As opportunities for stability and success appear to shrink for many young men in Western society, how does this tension shape their development as they are pushed into a world that looks increasingly unfamiliar compared to the one their parents inhabited? To have this discussion with me, I have a lady. That's right. Just going to ruin the whole man vibe. Please welcome MToussaint. I hate everything about your face.
Today, I am not a lady. I am the man of all men. I am AI Jason with no shirt on.
You know what? Real life Jason has finally hit AI Jason form. That was my whole goal.
I like this Jason because his eyes are kind of like, I don't know, maybe like a little gray, or like it's got some light in there, and they kind of flash a little bit, and he looks like he's going to kill you.
Why is there a picture of this? Again, I hate MT's face. You don't know what it looks like. I do.
You never made me your Facebook friend. Now I have access to all your photos.
As long as you know that real life Jason has achieved AI Jason body type.
Hey, that's not something I would have put out there, but okay. All right. If you want people to imagine you this way.
That's fine. Does it help the views?
I hope so. I hope so.
Does it help the view count? What if that was like, oh wow, I really look like that.
We'll see. I just wanted to tell a quick story. I used to work at a sobriety store, and one day we got a call from this woman. She wanted to buy a sobriety coin for some guy in her life. And she's like, well, what colors do you have? Because it has to be a masculine color, because he's a man. I was like, oh.
She said it like that?
Yeah. And I was like, well, we have black and dark blues, very popular with the men's. And she was like, because it has to be very masculine, because he's a man. And I was like, girl, towel down. Is the man in the room with you right now? What is going on?
You told her to towel down?
Towel down, girl.
Did you see that Paul Prescott is in the chat?
Paul Prescott is in the chat. He's very masculine. I'm so glad he's here.
And you know what else he is? A traitor.
Oh, we know what you did, Paul.
Yeah, we're teasing Paul. It's totally fine that you left us for Brianna Joy Gray's show. I understand.
Yeah.
You know, greener pastures, Paul. Greener pastures. We get it.
Well, I'm glad you came back, because Jason is man. And they all come back to Jason. So.
But the whole reason for this show is a person that I feel comfortable calling a friend. He is one of the editors at Revol Press and an extremely talented writer. He's been on this show before. And the latest entry into the Crisis of Masculinity series for Bram, which I got to be a part of, is a very, very vulnerable piece he wrote about himself, and we're going to dig into that a little bit too. Please welcome the host of Strange Exiles and one of the editors of Revol Press, Bram Gieben.
Hey, it's great to be back. Thank you for having me on to chat about this series. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's my bad, because you told me about it, and then I think we briefly spoke, and I sent you an email months later, and you responded back months later. But I get it. You've been moving, you've been working. It's a tough life. You're not just a dude with a podcast that writes a little bit. You're also someone's dad, and you have a real job, quote unquote. So
I have no babies, by the way, except for a small black and white cat.
Okay.
But he's a full-time job. But no, this is actually quite a good, timing wise, it's quite good, because I think I'm like 3 essays away from the end of the series now. So the bulk of it is out there if people want to read it and kind of catch up to where it's at. So yeah, absolutely, the timing worked out.
And wherever you guys are watching or listening to this show, there's a link in the description to Bram's series, which is being hosted on Substack. I know Toussaint had some questions for you. Did you want to start it off, Toussaint?
Oh my gosh, why we're starting with me?
Ladies first.
That picture of you is much more terrifying when it gets larger, by the way.
Yes. Jason's first. I didn't have like a fully formulated question. I want to tell you how I went through your work. You have a number of essays and then also a lot of guest essays. So I actually just went through all of your essays and then the intro. And I found some very, very interesting stuff. I really enjoyed 8, but I enjoyed, I guess it was 7, the one where you talk about Valerie Solanas' Manifesto. Why would you even think to go there? I love your use of other people's quotes and words and stuff. And so, yeah, tell me about where that came from and who she is.
Sure. I mean, Valerie Solanas is probably most famous as the woman who shot Andy Warhol. And of course, they made a movie about it, which I think was called I Shot Andy Warhol.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when the story of who Valerie Solanas is told, that's the first thing that comes into people's minds is oh, she shot Andy Warhol. I think she's often portrayed less as an author or a writer of any serious note, and more as kind of a footnote to pop culture. But I actually encountered her before that film was made in the mid-90s. I was a big fan of the band Manic Street Preachers before Richie disappeared and they sort of became a terrible indie pop band. They were actually like an incredible punk band. And they did a couple of songs on an album called The Holy Bible, one of which was called Of Walking Abortion. And that referenced, her manifesto. So the SCUM manifesto was published in '67. It was, very, very much a kind of small thing. And I think, there was an attempt by her to sort of get into Andy Warhol's circle. And then she felt that Andy Warhol had ripped her off over the script for a short film, I believe it was. So that's what led to the shooting. But I think the shooting sort of obscured how good a book the SCUM manifesto is. And this idea that like all men are walking abortions really struck me when I was 15. I think that was partly to do with the mental health struggles that I was going through. I was carrying around a lot of guilt and shame that I couldn't really put in a place that I understood. And I think a lot of it was to do with being a male, feeling almost like a stain of original sin about the idea of being not just a male, but a white male. So, men are responsible for most of the violence in society. A lot of women feel unsafe around men for very understandable reasons. And as a white man, you've got the lineage of, being descended from slave traders and colonists. So that's a lot to carry around for a 15-year-old. And anything that can help you understand and articulate that, I think, is going to be something that hits home. So when I read the SCUM manifesto, I think it didn't hit me as a manifesto that was specifically about how men are shit, although undeniably it can be read that way. She talks about men having to attend what are called turd sessions, where they sit around almost like they're in Alcoholics Anonymous and say, I am a turd, a lowly, worthless turd, things like that. But it's actually an incredible revolutionary manifesto. And the reason I really connected with it is that she's identifying not the differences between males and females necessarily, but the difference between the male mindset or the patriarchal mindset and the feminine one. And she associates feminine characteristics with joy, creative play, sisterhood, solidarity, and male ones with competitiveness, constantly trying to screw each other over. She has a great quote where she says that the witch hunt is the favorite pursuit of the male, because it allows them to project the guilt that they feel for their actions onto others. The bugs aren't up his ass, they're in Russia, is the way she phrases it. So it's an incredible book. It's an incendiary sort of anti, like what she's talking about really is capitalism, the selfishness, the acquisitiveness of capitalism. And by tying that into masculinity, she offers an alternative vision. Now it's clearly the product of a very damaged mind. She herself went through a lot of mental health crises, and eventually died, I think, in poverty and obscurity. But for anyone seeking to sort of deprogram themselves from the mental states that arise from gender programming, I don't think there is a better book. Another book I wrote about was Judith Butler's Gender Trouble. The way she conceptualizes gender is as a performance that could sort of be detached from the biological reality. Mm-hmm. I think what Solanas offers is something a bit more psychological. She says at one point, a relationship can't exist between a male and a female, but that includes a female who has sort of absorbed this male mindset. So that's I think what she's saying there is that we need to deprogram ourselves of the mindset and the sort of patterns of masculinity as they exist in everybody. You could also read it as a manifesto for the genocide of all men, which I think is how many people choose to read it. But I think that's why I wanted to write about it was to just offer a close reading of the text that didn't tie it into her shooting of Andy Warhol or the more sort of outrageous things she proposes in terms of getting rid of men.
Toussaint?
Very interesting. Well, one of the things that I found really striking about what she wrote, and I feel I should say you didn't just, quote her to quote her. You analyzed what she said and refuted some parts and that sort of thing. But I wonder if you watch or take in any kind of anti-manosphere or feminist media online, like podcasts and different shows and stuff, because maybe if you don't, you'd be surprised to find that a lot of what Valerie Solanas said is kind of mainstream now. Mm. This idea of let all the men start in jail and work their way out. I hear that repeated quite a bit. And I think it's
what does that mean? Let all women start in jail and work their way out?
No, all men should start in jail and then work
women.
their way out. Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry to the women. I'm a man today. Sorry.
Wow, what a dick. You're on the dickiness today, aren't you?
Not just any
you're a real
man.
man today because you're a dick.
Not just any man. But yes, this idea that all men should start their way in prison and then work their way out. To me, that strikes me, yes, as very carceral, as Dusty in the chat said. That's very liberal to me. But what do you think about this kind of media out there and ideas like that?
I think it's very interesting. I mean, it's a cliche to say we live in polarized times, but like, take what you said, this idea that men should all start in jail and work their way out. Like that, again, goes back to the idea that there is like an original sin of masculinity, that all men are programmed in some way to act in patriarchal ways, that they all benefit from patriarchy. Those are ideas I've sought to challenge a little bit in the book. And if I can kind of sum up where I think Solanas is coming from in the way that I read her, it's a bit like that phrase from Althusser, kill the cop inside your head. I think what she's saying is kill the patriarchal male inside your head. And I think that message is as directed at women as it is towards men in her manifesto, if you read it in the right way, sort of as allegory rather than as manifesto, which is what it calls itself. So it's fair enough to take it literally. But yeah, I think she offers some ideas about deprogramming that are quite useful. And yeah, I mean, I talk a little bit about what her vision, her sort of utopian vision for the what the world would look like after the genocide of men. You know, she thinks that that's a future where everything will be automated and we won't have to work and we'll just, you know, live in a world of creative play. And I think, you know, that's something that where the manifesto sort of starts to go into almost science fiction territory. You know, we do live in a world of automation now. We are able to vote electronically, and none of these things have necessarily brought about like any kind of emancipation. But yeah, she's a much more interesting and capable writer and political theorist than I think a lot of people give her credit for. Mainly because the text is difficult and definitely the product of a broken brain, you know.
Yeah, you were very fair to her in terms of her her mental illness. Yeah, I appreciate that.
I mean,
I don't know if you've read any Kathy Acker as well. Like, I was going to write up because I talk a little bit about. She was a British playwright who used scenes often to talk about things like the use of rape in war. You know, she's another person who, for whom violence and extremity was a way of making a political point. And Kathy Acker is a writer like that as well. I nearly put Kathy into that essay too. But if you read her stuff, when she was writing in New York, you know, she spent time as a sex worker. She spent time in the kind of experimental art scene. And there's a similar raw power in all three of these women's writing, which I think is actually lacking from feminist discourse today. Feminist discourse today, I think, often starts from the point of view of exempting themselves from the criticisms they're leveling at patriarchal society. I don't think Sarah Kane, Valerie Solanas, or Kathy Acker started from that position at all. I think that they're writers who accept that we're all in the muck together. They all, I think, would probably argue that it's a problem that has to start with men if it's to be fixed. And I think that has a lot of validity, and I'll hopefully unpack that in some of the other essays too. Yeah, there's a lot of work to do for sure.
Toussaint?
Why do, I don't know how to phrase this. I don't know, I guess feminist men, or I don't know if you consider yourself that, but what is this love of bell hooks? I have my own theory. Please explain, because you quote her many times in your essays.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read everything Bell Hooks has ever written by any shape or form. The one book that I would reference would be The Will to Change. And it's because there just are so few feminist texts that address men from a point of view of sympathy. She writes incredibly eloquently in this book about the way that male identities are formed and shaped by shame and what we might do to counter that. She doesn't necessarily offer anything in the way of solutions other than more empathy. So in that sense, maybe it's not like, maybe it's like quite a shallow thesis or theory that's put forward in the book. But the way she writes has an enormous amount of empathy for the way that men struggle. And, you know, that's without flinching from the effects that the patriarchal mindset can have in the real world if men take that shame and do awful things with it. But yeah, it's a really rare book among feminist texts in that it doesn't seek to just speak about the female experience of oppression under patriarchy. It also seeks to find a way to fix the problems that occur in men's lives and happen when their identities are formed, in order to get to a society where there was less violence, where there was less intolerance, less persecution. So I think it's quite a unique book in that sense. Although, you know, if there's anybody listening who has suggestions for further texts that do attack things from that direction, I'd be very interested to hear about them, for sure.
So if you're a guy and trying to get the ladies, that's the book that you read in public while drinking matcha.
Bell hooks?
I don't know about that. I think, you know, you mentioned sort of like men who identify as feminists. What I see certainly among the people that I follow online and certain among my friends, is that there's this sense of wanting to distance yourself, from being part of the critique of men that feminism offers, that almost by sharing feminist critiques of men, particularly those that say men are trash or men are evil or men are dangerous, by sharing that, you're in some way saying, look at those guys over there, I'm different from them, I've read bell hooks. I don't think this book is particularly, that's what's going on there. I think what she's arguing in that book is that unless we offer men more love and inculcate in them less shame, that we're always going to have rapists and abusers in the world. So I think like feminism isn't like an escape hatch for men. You don't just read feminism and then suddenly you're a feminist and you're exempt from all the critiques of masculinity. Like you need to understand the ways in which masculinity has, forming your masculinity has damaged you. There's no getting out of patriarchy by reading bell hooks and Judith Butler. Doesn't work like that.
I do want to kind of get back to the most recent entry. You connected self-harm and body modification to broader questions of masculine identity. How do contemporary figures like Clavicular fit into that continuum? Rather than stand outside of it as an extreme case. Again, I know you don't follow him or that world too closely, but when we're talking about masculinity, I think we should be talking about younger people and what they're growing, the world that they are growing up in.
Yeah. I see a lot of vulnerability in figures like Clavicular, or even some of the guys that were in the recent Louis Theroux Manosphere documentary that you were talking about on that previous episode. I mean, in that essay, I'm writing from personal experience there. I self-mutilated when I was younger, when I was first experiencing depression. That was a method of release for me. I was also a heavy user of drugs. I was thinking that when you were doing your intro, like I was also doing a lot of drugs when I was 21, but I wasn't doing them on camera. As much as I'm writing about my own struggles in these essays, I had room to fuck up. I had room to make mistakes. I had room to be messy and all over the place. I think, for young people who've grown up on camera, that's maybe less true. As soon as they drop a stitch, they're going to be pilloried for it. And I think it's difficult to judge someone like Clavicular too harshly when he is a 21-year-old. We're idiots when we're 21. Male brains, even on a scientific side of it, aren't fully formed until the mid-20s. You're more of a risk taker. You're less inhibited. So I think all of these things have to be taken into consideration when you're thinking of a figure like him. What's interesting is that the self-mutilation that he's put himself through is for ostensibly some sort of aesthetic purpose. And I've read a few, think pieces about Clavicular. One of the most interesting things is that he said that he wants to make himself into the perfect version of a man, so he's more attractive to women. But he doesn't necessarily want to sleep with women. He just wants to know that he could, because he's physically perfect. That to me is quite similar to the kind of anxieties that I was going through about my body and my personality and how I come across to the world. When I was a young man, I think it comes from a place of deep insecurity, of feeling that you don't measure up. And again, like what I'm trying to do in these essays as well is always connect this back to the ways in which capitalism informs the shaping of male identities. I think more than obviously this is true for all human beings, but we live in a society where competition is the overriding principle, where the idea of the survival of the fittest is absolutely core to how we conceptualize ourselves. And what is social media except for, a giant machine for telling you that you're less worthwhile than the person next to you? We've now got metrics and analytics and data that we can look at to say, well, I'm less popular than this guy. And, this person is getting more comments than me, more likes, more subscribers. Viewing ourselves through that lens is bound to warp and distort us. I think in a way, I wouldn't like to be a 21-year-old now. I'm quite grateful that when I was 21, There really wasn't much in the way of internet. There definitely wasn't any social media. It was a very hedonistic time, and that's all I was doing with my weekends was, taking ecstasy and going dancing when I was 21.
I was gonna say, were you part of? Were you also adjacent to the rave culture?
Yeah, rave
Well,
culture was a huge thing for me, and I think one of the reasons it was a huge thing was that I was so emotionally wound tight that I was literally cutting myself and putting out to allow myself to feel strong emotions. When I took ecstasy for the first time, that really unlocked me emotionally. I became much more openly, emotionally available to the people around me. I had some really incredible formative experiences, built some lifelong friendships off the back of that. But also at the same time, that became a crutch as well. And, I think, there's the revelatory experience of taking your first pill. There's the communal experience of being part of a rave culture, of going to underground rave events. And then I've been doing this for 10 years now. And really what I am is a drug addict. So I've had to kind of go through all three of those phases.
That's the hard part to,
Yeah.
musicians go through that too, right? It's like,
Yeah,
I'm a
I mean,
musician
if you're an addict, that part of it's waiting for you, because you don't stop partying when everybody else is like, okay, that's enough,
When I found, I just recently wrote about Clavicular for the upcoming TR newsletter. It's coming out next week, and what I found interesting, because I watched the video of the overdose, because MT and I were ending. Actually, I think it happened Tuesday, and we were ending the 3-hour champagne room, and you and I were talking about it as we were off air, and we're like, what, he overdosed? I wrote about this thing, young men, for Damage Magazine last year, but I had wrote the piece a couple years ago, and I actually interviewed people that took steroids and people that didn't take steroids in the fitness influencer world in Southern California. And what I found interesting is when you talk to people of a certain age, we forget that there's now multiple generations of young people that have grown up in front of cameras in a way that we didn't grow up in front of cameras. Everyone on screen is about the same age, and we all grew up in the era of analog cameras. So taking your picture was a bit of an event. All of the candid photos that we see now come about in the age, like the amount of them come about in the age of the ease of the digital camera at the end of the 90s and in the early 2000s. And the camera phone, everything is a photographable opportunity. But by the time we get to social media, where you can take these photos and then upload them for approval, there's literally young people that, since they are in the gestation period and there's enough of them to be photographed through a sonogram, they are put on display. So from sonogram 3 months inside the womb to every temper tantrum, food on your face, like everything about you has been online. And I feel like older generations don't take enough time to really think about how that warps the experience. And while there isn't much peer-reviewed study on this, there have been some advertising studies on this, that Gen Alpha is going to be maybe the first generation where every relationship they have, someone is selling them something within that relationship. Their friends will be selling them something. And I feel like Clavicular, I call the newsletter Clavicular, is the canary in the coal mine for what is to come. Because there's a part of the interview he does with, I think, Andrew Callahan, where he says, if you go on a date with a woman and you're not live streaming that is a waste of an opportunity.
Live streaming a date, that's wild, isn't it?
Yeah. Right? In my mind just went, I was like, imagine, again, being that age, like you said, you could go out and you could do dope, you can be an a-hole, you can do all the horrible things, and then grow out of it. And the internet is forever. And what I mean by forever is, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, not just that it's there to document the thing you did, but much like when we look at these pictures of ourselves as drug addicts, as maybe philanderous husbands, two-timing hussies like Toussaint.
Only my avatar.
We look back at those as a version of us that we are no longer. The internet has this way of saying that's who you were and that's who you are forever. You can't get beyond that. Yeah. Does this change the way young men see themselves, you think?
I mean, I'd say it changes how all of us see ourselves, right? Like, what are we being asked to do when we're on social media? First of all, we're being asked to curate ourselves, right? So you want the photo that's at the best angle with the best lighting. And what is Clavicular doing other than like pre-curating himself before he gets on camera? That's what he's trying to do, is achieve a look that's part of a like marketable brand. Yeah. So I think that's part of it. And I think that's something that anybody who's grown up in that generation with social media from a very young age is thinking of themselves as a brand and is constantly trying to sell and market themselves, you know? I think like, the Manosphere documentary with Louis Theroux recently, that was a crazy one, because the saddest part for me was it was just at the end, they showed some early video of, I think it was Sneeko and tches uploading things to YouTube before they became Manosphere influencers. And they were just kind of talking about their hobbies and their interests. And they were like 10 or 11-year-old kids.
Yep.
So why did they become what they became? I think, Louis Theroux opted for a very psychology-based explanation of that. Oh, these were two guys with absent fathers who didn't have good role models. I would say it's more to do with audience capture. They were looking around at other people who were successful influencers, and they were thinking, well, how do I get some of that respect? How do I get some of those numbers? And so you end up with tches, who, in some of the footage in that documentary, is literally just being told what to say by an angry crowd of keyboard warriors bashing away, ask him about Israel, and or you've got Sneeko, who's gone from, having, he's clearly an intelligent guy, but going from sharing his opinions politically, good or bad, to complete conspiracy theory material about, the Jews running the world. So I think it's a sense that, the algorithm rewards extremity. If you hit on something that's a successful formula, it pushes you to push that formula until it becomes almost ridiculous. I think like that was the saddest part for me, was seeing these young kids trying to get into the internet and then look at what they became. So yeah, I think it's a very dangerous time to be a young person with those kinds of pressures to market and brand yourself,
That's what was so crazy to me about the Thoreau documentary, that I think a lot of people looked at as, well, that's just the manosphere, that's just them. And it's like, no. That is the way most people engage with internet media, even in these spaces. It's all about controlling the presenter, right? Because you see this chat on the side of the screen, especially the guys that do like Twitch, where the chat is just like, and you're catching your eye at the craziest comment. And if that comment is seconded, now you kind of have to respond to it. There's a reason why these media figures capture a certain amount of attention, because these media figures become heroes because they fight other media figures. Right? Like Hassan's Pikers' war against the Democratic Party becomes a fight for a lot of people that they just want to see. And it's a fight of nothing.
It's their war against him. I just want to say that.
Oh, stop it.
He has, I guess, a war against
Change
Destiny.
the avatar to Hassan. Thirsty.
I think he has a war with Ethan Klein and Destiny, or at least their fans. But yes.
I think people have moved beyond that.
Helpful.
because those guys were so performative in their faux debates, and now it's about real name calling.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I want to see war.
Yeah. Interestingly, in the next essay, which is also sort of about mental health, that's something I talk about, is how the next essay is called The Recovery Myth. And it's about the idea that people do not want to hear the story of somebody who's been through multiple mental health crises and who might go through more. That's the experience of having a lifelong mental health condition, is that those periods of crisis and recovery, they recur, and speaking from experience, people can get a little bit sick of that, they sort of treat you like the boy who cried wolf. Oh, he's back in crisis again. Not again. People forget that at the end of that story, the kid is eaten,
Mhm.
And I think if you look at just the language that people use to talk about mental health, they talk about their fight or their struggle or their battle with their mental health. And implied in that is that you can only start to talk about it if you've triumphed over it, if you're victorious, if you're nobly carrying on the fight. Where's the space in the conversation for feeling beaten by those things, for being demolished by them? Why can't we focus on the work that you have to put in to be in recovery, whether that's from a mental illness or from an addiction? That's the interesting part for me, is if we could talk about what recovery means rather than talk about your victory over something or how you defeated something. And we live in this very adversarial moment. Like, people want conflict. They'll just change the channel if there's no conflict. Conflict is the essence of drama, but life isn't drama. Like, often life is just a series of repeating cycles. So I think that's very interesting. And I wonder about how conflict again is like a form of audience capture. You have to keep having the bigger beef, the next war.
Mhm.
It's difficult not to engage in that. I mean, with my podcast Strange Exiles, it's done really well in terms of me setting out to create a space for interesting conversations with interesting thinkers, but it's not really gone viral. It's not really taken off. And I think one of the reasons for that is I actively avoid confrontational conversations on the podcast. I want to give people space to unpack their ideas and talk about their background and how they got to where they are. And that doesn't really sell on the algorithm.
No.
The successful podcasts are the ones where the podcasters have beef, or where they bring someone on to do point and counterpoint. I guess, like, Strange Exiles is the opposite of whatever the Piers Morgan show is, I guess.
Well, we try to do something similar here when Tucson isn't making fun of me.
Nice. Yes, we do. We're not a contentious podcast. Jason has his favorites that he likes to make commentary about, but we don't really get into it. And I like that about us. But yeah, maybe that's right. Maybe we do need to do Sharks and Jets with some other podcast, and yeah, just color coordinate and get out in the streets, get some dancing going.
I hope people Google what you said, because I feel like only the small amount of music theater majors know exactly what you're talking about. But what she meant is, when you're a jet all the way from your.
That's true. I am a PBS kid. I'm sorry. I am. I actually wanted to ask you a question about bringing it back to your most recent essay, number 8, and clavicular, Jason's favorite topic of late. So I wanted to ask you what you think about, I guess, the male gaze. So when I was younger, the person that people seem to think was, I don't know, I guess sort of fetishizing themselves was Pamela Anderson. And I think that these kind of body modifications, particularly for women, have gone a long way since her. She actually hasn't touched her face. Now we have a whole stable of Kardashians, and they're reproducing at a rapid rate. And the game has changed in terms of changing your whole head. But she was sort of an example of a person who was maybe seeing themselves through someone else's eyes, looking at herself, and then modifying herself sort of based on that. And I wonder what you think is going on with Clavicular in terms of the look that he's chosen, whose eyes he's chosen to see himself through. I've heard men say that as little boys, you're given okay, girls are given Barbie, and that's an unrealistic standard of what you're supposed to look like, but boys are given He-Man, and that's also equally unrealistic. So whose eyes is Clav seeing himself through? Is this the male gaze? Is this the gay male gaze? Is the male gaze gay?
Well, I mean,
male gaze gay, forgive male.
Yeah, I know. All men are gay. That's what we learned today.
Speaking as a bisexual, I'm fine with the male gaze.
Sure.
You know, I'm a big fan of them, in fact. But no, I mean, I think, you know, Pamela Anderson's a really interesting person to choose to center this around. Interestingly, if you look at like more recent interviews with her or the roles she's chosen recently, she quite often will appear on a talk show with zero makeup. You know, she's sort of become a bit of a standard bearer for like, no, actually, this is what a woman looks like. I'm not going to gussing myself up for the gaze of the camera. But, you know, I guess that comes down to it. I think Clavicular is trying to reach an image of himself that's in his own mind. I think he's doing what I'm doing right now, which is I'm like looking at myself in camera and being like, oh gosh, do I need to turn slightly to the right? That's my good side. Yeah. So it's a very like Narcissus kind of type situation, I think, with these guys. In terms of like what they're imagining, you know, obviously like the desirable male form changes through time. It changes with each generation. In the 80s, we had that kind of like pumped up wrestler style, He-Man style, you know, big swole body thing. Now, in a way, those guys are like memes and jokes, right? Like you see a lot of memes and jokes around these guys who've gotten too swole. Like who's Clavicular trying to look like that for? I mean, again, I'd bring it back to that comment that he made where he's not necessarily doing it to try and sleep with women. He's doing it so that he looks like the type of man that a woman would sleep with so that other men will respect him. And that is a weird flex. One of the best novels I read this year was written by a guy who's got a really great Substack. He's called Han, and the book's called Incel. And this was like a mind-blowingly powerful book because he actually kind of is writing from a first-person perspective of a person who's getting radicalized by going online and becoming an incel. And it starts with that kind of pickup artist stuff. So he's hanging around in bookstores trying to pick up women, and he's doing things like negging them, you know, or trying to sort of like read from a cue sheet in his head that he's inherited from internet influencers. And again, I mean, the type of person that he's trying to be is not appealing to anyone in real life. He's measuring up to the pickup artist or the incel's idea of what a man should be, not a woman's idea of what a man should be. And I mean, you know, if you are trying to take steroids and get swole, is that necessarily going to attract women nowadays? I mean, look at the actors who are popular. They're all of that kind of like thin-faced rat boy aesthetic, like your Timothy Chalamet, sort of like 5'3", the little fuzzy curls. You know, that to me is not an action hero. The idea that like Tom Holland could be James Bond, I'm from a different era. I cannot see that. I'm sorry, I can't see that. So
does that speak? I'm sorry to cut you off, but does that speak to kind of what I tried to mention in the introduction, that there is a disconnect to what people think is popular and train wrecks people want to watch? Like the steroid thing, I think a lot of people misunderstand because we live in an era of I want what I want when I want it because I want it now. And if I read all the books that you just mentioned, my brain doesn't get bigger. I'm not visibly smarter. I can't just read those books and get better. I have to read them. I have to like maybe write about what I read to really understand what I took in. That takes time. And it's not something that visually you can see. If I go to the gym, a few things happen. If I start working out, someone's going to see me, someone's going to help me, someone's going to cheer me on. And I get a community of people. And if I lift weights enough till my muscles pump, I can look in the mirror and flex and go, in 3 months, if I keep this up, I'm going to look like that. And if I take steroids, I've turned 3 months into 3 weeks. I've turned a year into 3 months, where I can look physically different, right? As funny as the avatar is on the screen, if you take steroids, you can achieve that body shape in maybe 90 days, depending on the cycle that you take. There's going to be some things that come with it, depending on how the steroids take to your body. You might get acne, really, really, really bad. And there are young people who are taking steroids under the age of 16, some of them, that have massive they don't care, and they're flexing with and popping pimples at the same time. Like, that's how bad it is, to the point where that's just a thing in that community. But I think it's also the instant reward. Steroids also are like other drugs. You feel good when you're on them. Much like ecstasy, if I've unlocked the thing that makes you feel good, you're looking in the mirror and you physically see a different person. People start patting you on, hey, you've been working out. If you're shooting heroin or doing buttloads of coke, no one's like, hey, your eyes look like shit. You've been doing a lot of coke.
I think the presence of the camera, like particularly the social media camera, like, curating photos of yourself to put online, making videos of yourself to put online, it kind of lends itself to becoming like a vector for dysmorphia. Like, I similarly get that feeling from going to the gym and working out and seeing a small gain and thinking, if I keep at it, that's great. I similarly feel like I like to sit in the changing room. You overhear conversations about self-image, body, masculinity, self-worth that, I don't think you probably heard in locker rooms in the 80s. So there's a lot of positive stuff about going to the gym. But when you are putting that stuff online, or when you're going home and sort of being like, okay, I'm gonna now curate this for the algorithm, again, you get into that territory of audience capture. I just watched the documentary about Liver King. I thought that was so fascinating. So this is a guy who, came through on a message of like, it's all natural. You eat the raw meat, you will have the same gains as me. He looks like an action figure from the 80s. And he launched this like line of he launched this line of supplements that were meant to like help you adhere to this regimen. A lot of them based on like, cow liver, cow tallow, that kind of stuff. And constantly posing on camera with like his kids killing animals. There was a whole brand developed around this like natural way of life. And then of course there was a huge scandal because he was taking steroids. But why was he taking steroids? It was to maintain the body shape that was instrumental in him having a successful brand. Even when he was asked directly, are you taking steroids? He would double down and say no. In his mind, he had to take steroids so that he could say he didn't take steroids. Like, it was so important for him to sell this idea of it being a natural body that he got with work that he couldn't let it slip. So he needed steroids. So I think there's something like about that's going on, where there was a dysmorphia happening there. He was already swole. His products were already selling, but he couldn't bring himself to be in a video and not have that vein popping on one bicep, So I think that's how you can get into that situation where you're sort of lying to yourself. And maybe that explains, why Clavicular OD'd on camera, is that in his mind, he's reaching that level of physical perfection where he looks like he wants to look, but he's pushing himself so hard with drugs to do that it's not sustainable. So again, I think like the minute that you are not producing your appearance for the way it makes you feel, but producing your appearance for what you can gain by looking like that on camera, it becomes a very warped mirror, I'm
sorry, go ahead, Toussaint. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. That's okay. I just want to ask, what do you think is driving that? Is that some trauma, which you also address in your essays. Is that patriarchy? Is that capitalism? What is making them have that drive where they've already kind of arrived, I guess you would say, and they feel all this pressure to maintain that or continue excelling in their own terms?
I think, people have said like capitalism is a vortex of shame. I can't remember who exactly I got that quote from, but the idea is that by creating lack within you, you become a consumer and you try and fill that lack with products. And I think it's something similar going on there. We are literally consuming ourselves when we're going on social media. So the lack we feel inside is the lack we're trying to fill, but we're trying to fill it with ourselves. And so we have to transform ourselves. I think that's what's happening there. And I don't think that's particularly unique to the way male identities are formed. I think there's a different version of that happening with female identities that goes back to that question of the Kardashians and Pamela Anderson. And again, it's kind of probably transmogrified or changed or being accelerated by social media. But with men, I think, the basic question of masculinity, and I say this in one of the essays, is the question of who would win in a fight, right? Like when you're growing up and you're in the playground, the question of who's the toughest kid in school, that's the most important question. And the minute that you're in the playground, you know where you are on that ranking system. And you have a couple of choices then, right? Which is you can try and become a scrapper and a brawler and climb those ranks. And in order to do that, you have to become very cruel and tough, and you have to know how to take a punch. And these are all sort of coded as masculine qualities. Or you can try and kind of like remove yourself from the equation. Well, I don't play that. Like, I'm not that type of guy. You might still get sucked into it because somebody might decide, you know what? He's 15, he's 6 foot, he says he doesn't fight. This would look pretty good on my card if I beat this guy down, So I think that's what it's about for men is this question of wanting to be tougher, bigger, stronger, better. And again, that's why I tie it back into capitalism, is that's what capitalism's about. It's about being richer, more successful, having more followers. These, I think, are the really toxic ideas that we feed into the way masculine identity is shaped. It's also worth saying that, there are studies, there is data on the way in which men are raised, and they tend to be subject to more physical punishment, given less sympathy when they cry, spoken to more harshly. And all of this inculcates in men a great sense of shame for not being manly enough, for not manning up, for not being able to measure up to the idea of what a man is. And like Jason said earlier, I think that has changed. We do value qualities like sensitivity, emotional, being able to access your emotions, being able to articulate those. We do value those more than we did, but the basic template of what it means to be a man hasn't changed. And I think in terms of the Manosphere, that's sort of where the Manosphere comes in. I think with the Louis Theroux documentary, you could have got the impression that the issue is that there are too many bad male role models around at the moment. And there certainly are. Your Andrew Tates, your Sneakos, your HSs, terrible role models. But why do they exist and why are they successful? I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that we failed to deliver an alternative to that. We've let there be a void at the heart of how we imagine and portray masculinity. That's why I wrote about Ryan Gosling in one of the early essays. I think Ryan Gosling's a really interesting character in terms of like how his performances come across. He simultaneously sort of occupies the position of the traditional male hero. He's strong, he's stoic, he's tough, he can beat the bad guys, but he's also strangely silent. And he has this weird like still face that's the same in every performance. Like, what are we meant to imagine when we imagine Ryan Gosling? Are we meant to imagine that on the inside he's soft and sensitive and in touch with his emotions? Are we meant to identify with him with being the hero who beats the baddie and gets the girl? It's like a strange mixture of those things. He's a blank void onto which we can project our ideas of masculinity. But he's also just strangely empty. And I think that's why he's so effective at playing a robot in Blade Runner 2049 or Ken in the Barbie movie, is that he is already through the series of performances that he's put on film, an empty figure. So I think that's I think the kind of man that the world or culture wants us to be, is sort of like simultaneously one foot in the world of traditional masculinity, one foot in the world of like sensitive postmodern masculinity, but also completely empty, like making way for the rest of culture, leaving the stage bare. So yeah, I don't know if I'm making sense there, but I think there is a void, and that's why the Manosphere has come into existence, is that we have not got a figure of masculinity that we can point at and say, that's a man. And so influencers like these are coming in and doing it for themselves. And they're not doing it because they have any particular, I think, like ideological or moral commitment to occupying that space. They're doing it because they're hustlers and they're running pyramid schemes and they want to get rich quick. Which was one thing I thought the Louis Theroux documentary nailed, was just showing how much these guys are grifters.
In the real sense, right? Not in that leftist sense where anyone that thinks something I don't like is a con artist. Like, these men are legitimate infomercial people.
Yeah, running actual pyramid schemes.
Yeah, that's really all they are. But they do fill a void that I think really is missing in the 2000s, right? If you look at like kind of right before Obama, like the mid 2000s, as the peak of low culture, which is one of those moments I don't think we talk enough about, where you have like the Adam Sandler movies and
American Pie,
Maxim magazine, and
Spike TV.
What'd you say?
Spike TV.
Oh God, I forgot about the Man Show.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, this is peak dudes being dudes. Anything I don't like is gay. There's this era of professionalism where we make a 180-degree turn, moralistically and professionally, and those things are no longer in vogue. And now they're bad. And it was such a quick turn. And being sensitive and intelligent, and to some degree physically weak, become the new tough guys. This is the era where we put Elon Musk and all these tech oligarchs on pedestals of being the new Ubermensch, because they're making our lives better. Look, my CD collection is in my pocket now on this device because this smart guy that told me to think different did it. He created this whole new world for me. And now I can pay someone without mailing a check on eBay because of PayPal, and everything is better because of these smart guys. And Bill Gates is going to eradicate malaria. Another smart nerd. So we get kind of revenge of the nerds. And I've always felt like that really peaks around the rise of, Bernie Sanders and this kind of new left. And also you have this acceptance of gender ideology to the point where, and this has been Dave Chappelle's whole thing, right? Why he's kind of cast himself out, if you will, because he saw all of a sudden trans identity become this protected class, that if you say anything, even mildly jokey about it, you will be put in the radar of cancellation, whatever that means, ratioed, whatever word you want to use. And he was like, man, these cats just leapfrogged, me, and didn't have to go through the same gauntlet I went through to get to where I am. And we're seeing this interesting correction. And a lot of it is market-based. And I mentioned this on the show the other night. Bud Light had a trans influencer because, again, they looked at the market, what they thought they needed to be, and they said, well, we need to have this trans influencer get us the younger demographic that we're losing to craft breweries. And it had a massive negative effect on them. And they bring in Kid Rock and that other comedian that's kind of adjacent to the Joe Rogan sphere. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. And they've totally tried to rebrand themselves as like manly dude beer. Target a U.S. company, Target, really was quick to jump on the George Floyd, let's put black people in the front of the store stuff. And once the second term of Trump came around, they were like, we don't really need to do DEI initiatives anymore.
I think, this is where the incel / red pill stuff comes in for me. Let's say you're a young man. You are a little bit of maybe like a physically weak specimen, or you perceive yourself to be. You can't measure up to the sort of 80s macho man, swole guy idea. You similarly maybe don't see yourself as ever having access to the sort of intellectual prowess of an Elon Musk or, another tech bro that you could mention. You need a space to complain about it. But when you complain about it, when you articulate the pain that you're caused by feeling shut out from these versions of male identity, you're told that you can't complain about it because you are actually benefiting from patriarchy. You are in the top rung of society because you are white male, So what do you do with this pain? Where do you take it? Male Complaint by Simon Copland is a brilliant book. So Simon James Copland, get that right. He spent a couple of years researching the sort of incel forums and actually reading and engaging with what these guys were saying. And the basic thesis of the book is that there's just a whole lot of pain out there. There are a whole lot of guys who do not feel they fit into any of these categories. And where do they go? And the answer is that they go online. They're often in these kind of private forum spaces. And it's like this self-reinforcing dynamic that sometimes leads to extremism, other times leads to just suicide. But I think this is where we're getting all these high school shooters from, is that there aren't many versions of masculinity in the public eye that are, and I hesitate to use the word positive because I think this idea of positive masculinity is quite reductive in the same way that toxic masculinity is quite reductive. But it is difficult to point at a male identity that feels achievable and not like it's going to damage you or harm you or is inaccessible because of your economic circumstances. And I think like what Simon James Copland articulates really well is that there are good things about these spaces in the manosphere where people congregate to complain about the pain of being men. They do provide a form of community. They do provide a form of release. And there must be a way to make that more positive, to influence it to be more productive, so that rather than radicalizing school shooters, what it's doing is helping men to find a healthy way of being their own individual selves, And to take it back to the idea of the incel, I mean, it's really striking, I think, that like American Psycho, the film, it was such a satire of that like 80s gym body, coke-taking Wall Street executive hyper-capitalist thing. It was 100% a satire, but the memes that get shared of Patrick Bateman are all admiring, right? Like the idea that he's a killer is less relevant than the fact that he was Looksmaxxing, So I think that there's very dangerous waters which men or young men in particular end up swimming into because they don't really have a good example to follow. If they try to follow someone like the Liver King, they're going to find out that he's actually pumping himself full of steroids. If they find themselves following Andrew Tate, they might get some positive messages about like, looking after your body, trying to kind of like have confidence, make money, but they're actually going to get sucked into this Ponzi scheme that he and the people that follow him run. So it's just very dangerous territory for young men at the moment in a way that I think is quite unique to the time that we live in. And a lot of that is to do with the fact that as men, we're sort of quite often asked to, first of all, deny ourselves, to say, well, all men are trash, but I'm different. So to bring that back to gender ideology, I'm not saying in any sense that like trans identities or non-binary identities aren't a real thing, because I think they are. I think they're absolutely real. The lived experience of those people, who use those descriptions of themselves is absolutely valid. But if you were a young man looking for a good example of how to be a man, and you can't find it because all of the ones around you are either inaccessible or toxic, then saying, okay, I'm non-binary is a very good route out of that, you know, because then none of the critiques of masculinity necessarily apply to you in the same way. You've kind of opted out. And I think that's the danger of identity politics, really, is that it can be used as a way of negating your own self-identity. It can be used as a way of opting out or counting yourself out of the difficult question of what it means to be a good man. So yeah, I think it's very tempting, if you feel like you've been exiled or you're alienated, to look for anywhere to stand. So I think it's very understandable that you know, male presenting people, you know, with a big beard and you know, a mustache would say, I'm non-binary, and that means that I don't have to accept any of the critiques of toxic masculinity as applying to me. In fact, what I can do is participate in criticizing toxic masculinity from the outside, because I'm in a different category.
Does it also allow you to be now an aggrieved minority? So if I misgender you for some odd reason, because especially if we meet and you say, hi, I'm Bram. Hey, Bram. Hey, you guys meet Bram? You know, I'm not going to be like, hey, him.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would sort of file that under a little bit similar to something like stolen valor, right? Like, you know, if your identity is such that you're actually presenting physically different, if you use pronouns as a way of sort of claiming your own identity, then I massively have respect for that. I think it gets a bit more complicated and murky when what you're doing is trying to use it as armor in a way, you know? So these are enormously complicated things to talk about without offending somebody. And that's part of the problem, right? Is that we can't talk about the way in which male identities are shaped in a way that doesn't feel toxic or dangerous. There isn't space for that. If we're discussing it at all, to some people, we're already part of the problem. Like, writing a series called Crisis Masculinity, for some people that I know, that's already placed me in the kind of toxic masculinity space. Like, I'm already a Manosphere influencer myself just because I'm talking about the topic. And I fully understand that. Like, I understand that, again, you know, like I said earlier, most of the violent crime is committed by men. At the very elite levels of society, the world is run by men. It's run by men like Donald fucking Trump. You know, the existence of Donald Trump is its own argument for toxic masculinity. If you look at big business, if you look at banking, all the elite industries, that they are absolutely still dominated by men. And so it's valid to talk about patriarchy and to talk about the world being set up that way. But the experience of being a man in that world, if you're not in the elite, is very, very different to that. You know, I mean, I can only talk subjectively about my own experience. I've never had a male boss, ever. I'm 45, really? Been working since I was 20. I think the last time I had a male boss was when I was working in a bar, and he was the bar manager. All of the managers I've worked under and the jobs that I've had, there were like administrative or office jobs. It's always been a female leaders that I've followed, you know? So I think like the idea that on every level of society, men dominate, lead, and oppress and keep people out of the hierarchy, I don't think that's as true as it used to be. You know, if you look at the book of Boys and Men, the name of the author escapes me, Hayton Lukanoff. So, you know, what they're indicating there is like men are falling behind in all sorts of categories, whether that's employment, whether it's academic achievement, whether it's even just like measurements of happiness. Men are falling behind women. Men are not doing well. And I think the problem with the identity politics stuff is it gets in the way of talking about that, because the identity politics worldview is sort of predicated upon that traditional critique of a very stratified society where men are always in the driving seat. And I don't necessarily think we live in that anymore. No. It's still true at the elite levels, but it's not as true on the ground. And if you try and tell a young man who feels that he isn't getting opportunities, or he isn't being allowed to speak, or he doesn't have good role models, well, actually, you're in the top 10%, you know, you have privilege. If you tell him that, that's going to make him feel alienated and exiled, because
why don't we talk about that more, that women are much more educated. This came up on the show Friday morning with our guest Evelina Johannesson Wieland, where especially in the Black community, Black women are this extremely highly educated class. They're outpacing Black men as far as earners. And this happened, it felt like so quickly. I don't know how you feel about this, Toussaint, that we don't really talk about it enough. And the people that fill the void of the conversation tend to be these like manosphere influencers that want to kind of like, let's smack these chicks back down so they can know their place.
We don't care about your degrees.
We don't care about your degrees, because if I happen to make X amount of dollars and I'm a certain height, well, goddamn it, put me on the largest of pedestals because I'm a bit of a king. But the reality, what is it? The quotidian experience of a lot of Black dudes is you don't make that much money. And if all you had in the labor force was the ability to sell your physical labor, there's a lot less jobs for you, with the opportunities for you to grow within that company, get raises that could get you to a point where maybe sort of kind of you could buy a home. So you're in a bad way if you're in the dating market, unless you're in the professional world. And even the professional world is starting to cannibalize itself with the emergence of AI, eliminating the need for so many engineers. So as we code jobs for women, education, nonprofit sector, some of these jobs pay pretty well. And we've coded men out of these jobs for years as well, especially when we talk about elementary school education. Hey, I don't want that kid toucher man teaching my young kids, because why would he want to be around young kids?
Well, but then there's the question of who's we? We've coded men out of these jobs, but it seems like men have coded men out of these jobs. At least to a lot of women, that's how it seems. Maybe they feel women have coded men out of those jobs by taking those jobs. But women don't seem to be the ones saying you can't be a nurse. That seems to be men sort of saying that to men, and men sort of cutting other men off at the knees, and older men telling younger men just focus on work and working out and leave the 19-year-old chicks to me. And when you're 50, you can date 19-year-old chicks.
That just sounds like headache and gross.
That is a major thesis in the manosphere, that you need to, you can date women who are 19, no matter what age you are. But especially when you're older, because you'll have more money when you're older and they like money.
Trust.
Yeah.
I mentioned that book of Boys and Men. I think I said it was by Hayden Lukianoff. They actually wrote another one, which I referenced in the book, which is more about sort of social media and how we raise boys in that environment. Of Boys and Men's by Richard Reeves. But this is one of the things he talks about, is that there's statistics that show that as women, more and more women join a profession, men are more and more reluctant to join it. So one of the prescriptions Richard Reeves has in that book is that we need to start emphasizing the usefulness of having male teachers for young boys. That without male teachers in early schooling, boys are not going to have a male role model to look up to. And that's what he basically advocates it for, is bringing in sort of like forms of funding or incentives to bring more men back into professions like the caring professions, so nursing, teaching, those kinds of things. He says something similar about education. He says, fewer and fewer men are going on to higher education, and that actually the feminist push to give women access to education was incredibly successful. So now that the numbers are going in the other direction, do we need something similar for men? And so Reeves's book is very much about trying to bring things back to a state of equality, rather than being trapped in the notion that the struggle is still men versus women, with women on the back foot. And I think, if you look at, look, there was an essay that went quite viral several months ago by Jacob Savage called "The Lost Generation." It was in Compact, and he talked about
I hated
getting
it.
into. Yeah, I mean, I have mixed feelings about the essay, but what he was talking about was the fact that industries like publishing and the media have been so fixated on the idea of balancing the books and bringing women in that they have necessarily excluded men, particularly young men who are trying to get into those industries. And it's the case that, like, if you're grandfathered in, if you're, this is a generation thing, like you guys are saying, if you've been in the publishing industry and you're, a white male in your 50s, you're still going to get the jobs and you're still going to have your elite position. But if you're coming into the industry as a young guy, there's always going to be a woman to hire in front of you, So I think that it's about that. It's about, like, how we conceptualize what we mean when we say equal playing field for men and women.
But that, look, I don't want to harp on that essay, but the whole essay was a way to say reverse racism. And what he totally forgets, because he's basically talking about Hollywood more than anything. Yeah. And I literally had a man on the show recently, Todd Farmer, who was a relatively successful Hollywood writer that no longer works in Hollywood anymore. And there's numbers to suggest that everything he said was bullshit, because he was jumping around timelines so much to try to prove a point. And there was a time in publishing, in academia, and definitely in Hollywood, where it's like, we need more women. We need more women of color. We need more marginalized communities to put forward. Again, back to the Bud Light example, that a lot of companies, a lot of industries shifted, which is weird, because when do people shift to match up with academia? And I think this also speaks to kind of a hyper politicized moment that we're in, where we need to know someone's politics all the time before we can follow them. And so how many of our celebrities before, we never knew what they thought about anything, and now we have to know where they stand on everything before we can go support a movie or watch a movie. It's like, well, I didn't know I had to know how they felt about Israel Palestine before I went to go watch this movie. So if you look at who's losing out in Hollywood, it's all the people he was talking about, right? It's Gen X white males.
It's that thing of, like, it's like that phrase, like, the loss of privilege feels like oppression, right? So whether or not the data backs it up, what he was saying in that essay is how it feels to a man like him at where he's at in his career. So I think that's something similar is going on with the young guys who are being drawn into the Manosphere, is that life might not be as bad as it seems to them. They might not be as oppressed or exiled or rejected or othered as they feel, but they still feel that way. And it's that feeling that draws them into a place with people who share their grievances. And that's actually incredibly dangerous, because what someone like Jacob Savage, what he's saying, like, what does he want? Does he want, like, positive discrimination for white males to come into the industry? That's not going to be the solution either.
Right. You know but he tells you what he wants. Right? What does he want? At the very end, what does he say? When am I going to take? I'll never be able to take my son to what was it, to somewhere in the world when I'm writing a movie. And that's what he wanted. He wanted to be famous. You know who else wanted to be famous? Me and you, right? We wanted to be musicians that could just
really thought you were going to say Hitler. I don't know why.
Wow.
I don't know.
You got two dicks.
Some of the examples in there are really interesting, though. Like, the one that stuck with me was the person who had pitched a series to a streamer, and they pitched it, and the pitch was accepted, but they applied for a job in the writer's room and couldn't get it because they had hired people who met the quota. That to me was just kind of stuck in my mind, in that, like, it kind of sends that message of, no matter how well you do or how good you are, that's not going to matter anymore. That the idea of meritocracy, the idea of equality, these concepts are now buried because they are by them. They are part of toxic masculinity. They are part of the colonial mindset. They are part of white supremacy. And that's the problem, is that when you start applying policies in such a way that they're going to address concepts that large, it's going to disadvantage someone else, right? So what are we about here? Are we about saying, men, white guys, you've had your time, you've had your fun now, we're going to create space for other people? Are we? That's just going to create resentment further down the line when we have an industry that has no white guys, no men in it, So it's a difficult one to get right.
But that's what's so interesting. Again, this is my problem with Lost Generation. Like, I really hated it. Like, if I saw Jacob Savage, there's a good chance I will walk up to him like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna throw a rock at you because I don't want to punch you." Because it was just, there's a reason why JD Vance retweeted it. And it's because it's just about white grievance and reverse racism. Because I read all those articles in the Great Awakening is what we call it, where I'm locked out of this universe because I'm a black person. And what you end up getting with that piece, which is so interesting when it came out, it doesn't speak to at all the fact that Hollywood and the entertainment industry is cannibalized itself through streaming. And all these magical writers' rooms that he talks about that only existed for a very short time, mind you. That's not how television started. And he doesn't even do that history because then he'd have to prove how stupid everything he said was, how ahistorical everything he said was.
Yeah.
When it comes to the lineage of how Hollywood writing even works.
I think
he just wants to, let me get this rant.
No, Cook, please.
He just wants to lament on, I missed out on the gravy train because I was born too late. And when I came to Hollywood, I wasn't the right color. But he doesn't talk about what fucking movies look like now. Outside of Sinners, that George Floyd shit is done. Nobody cares about Oscars So White because it's done. It's over. Like you said about Timothy Chalamet, little twinkie white dudes. Twinkie white dudes are back. Boring looking white women are back. The Meryl Streep shit is back. Right? There was a whole article. Me and Toussaint were talking about this the other day. The Mar-a-Lago look. Is it a look? It just looks like every other middle-class white woman I've ever seen in the history of middle-class white woman. I know what bedazzled jeans and too much makeup looks like.
I think there's so much valid in what you're saying. I think if we zoom out a little bit, this comes back to the broad acceptance of the concepts of identitarianism and privilege theory, right? Privilege theory in particular, it's been accepted as a way of looking at society that like mathematically balances the equations. So you get like minus points if you're from one identity, plus points if you're from another identity. The concept of intersectionality itself was not designed to be a theory which described a ranking of like oppression or privilege. It was designed to be a theory that allowed you to describe very specific circumstances where oppressions overlapped. As I understand it, it started with a legal case where some women were suing because they were saying they were fired for being black women. What they couldn't prove was that they were oppressed on the basis of being black or the basis of being women. If they could have proved, if they'd have gone for the case as one of those things, they might have won it. But because they were combining those two, the judgment didn't work out. And so the theory of intersectionality is that the experience of being a woman involves oppression, the experience of being black involves oppression, and the experience of being a black woman is another kind of oppression that's very, very specific to those two characteristics combined. What it's since become, however, is almost like a pyramid where you can say, okay, or like a Venn diagram, where if you're in a particular part of it and it overlaps, suddenly your experience is like more oppressive than somebody in another category where fewer things overlap. And life just doesn't work like that. You know, we are all individuals. We all experience oppression in different ways. We react differently to it. You know, it also leads class because it has such a focus on identity and background. You know, like we have a lot of art nowadays that is made by people speaking on behalf of marginalized communities, and yet they come from incredibly elite upper class backgrounds. And it's almost like you can wipe away the kind of privilege that comes from class by talking about the type of oppression that comes from being from a marginalized identity. And I just don't think things work that mathematically. So, you know, for me, it's quite often happens with theory, right? Like if theory becomes popular, it then gets bowdlerized and simplified until it's like a sum that you can apply to anything and say, okay, well, this is where this person sits. And you can make that judgment about them based on how they look, how they dress, how they speak. You know, we can't know people like that. We can't place them in categories just by looking at them. Everybody's lived experience is going to be different. So for me, that's what's behind the politics of that essay, is that the decisions that were being made over who to hire and who not were being used in a kind of like, were being calculated in a mathematical scale that spoke about like, okay, where do these identities merge and overlap?
Agreed.
Not where do these merge and overlap to create a unique and specific individual or group of individuals. So yeah, I would take it back to that. I think privilege theory in particular is real, just an easy way of looking at the world and ranking people by how oppressed they are. And I don't think it's useful. I don't think it leads to better outcomes, you know?
What I get from
Wait, well, hold on.
God damn it.
I just want to say, Bram, you need to check your privilege, trying to check the privilege of checking privilege.
This is why. Just double dick today. What capitalism does, though, and this is what's important, this is the main part that we need to tack on if you want to attempt to take that thing seriously. And this is why I wrote something in response to that, because I don't think he took it serious, because he didn't mention capitalism. It uses those identities when it's feasible and will throw them away and even adopt Nazism if it's feasible.
Yep.
And again, back to the Bud Light example. When Bud Light assumed that, well, we think these marginalized identities is going to get us the younger demographic that we need to get back to where we want to be, they brought in a trans influencer. It had horrible effects for them. The NFL, after they worked to keep Colin Kaepernick out of football for kneeling, which that whole thing was ridiculous.
We're done kneeling.
But what did they do? They then adopt all the phrases that they had outlawed before, and now they're done with that again. So capitalism is malleable and it's very flexible. It is a contortionist. And the way that identity, again, we talk about this moment like it would lasted so long. It was a short-lived moment, but it's a really powerful moment when it comes to that 180-degree shift on what we thought was acceptable and what we wanted. When you think about all the Black women that got green lights to write shows and movies, that's crazy. Granted, as Bert Cooper, friend of show, pointed out so eloquently in his piece for Current Affairs magazine, Who Gets to Write for Black People, they all came from privileged classes of people. And that got erased in that identity discussion. And this is what we miss in these identity discussions. Even when we talk about the end of affirmative action in the US, who was really affected by that? Most Black people weren't going to Harvard. So the fact that it's not there for them didn't mean anything. No one's life changed. There's a middle class that had some advantage, like Toussaint. That shit hit her hard. That's why she's here with us today.
It's picking up pennies from the floor.
Capitalism often presents itself as being a meritocracy, you know, and the issue with that is it never really is. The idea of a meritocracy is something like quite noble to aspire to, particularly if you're talking about the arts, right? Because what you're saying in a meritocratic art system is that the most talented artists get to make art, and none of the rest of that stuff sort of matters. But when, you know, someone like Jacob Savage would have considered it a meritocratic period where talent mattered, it was also incredibly white, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do about these things? How do you try and ameliorate them? The minute you even try and change the conversation, you're quite right to say that like it can have positive effects because you've got more stories written by and for Black people, and that's great. And it does create some classic stuff, like Sinners is a great example. The films of Boots Riley. Like, I'm glad there's space for stuff like that, and I consume it, right? And it's massively artistically valid. The issue is that to get to a point where you have meritocracy, you've sort of got to cheat. You've got to pull all these levers to make it appear meritocratic. So it's the subjective experience of anyone trying to get ahead in that industry is going to feel oppressive at some point, no matter what the operant conditions are. I think you're quite right, though, to say that it's gonna, that things will swing back. That really, like, any moment politically and culturally that is passing, capitalism is going to use that to make money, and that when the steam runs out in the engine, it's going to stop using those people to make money, and it's going to use another group of people. So I don't know how we sort of like get to a point where real meritocracy exists, but meritocracy seems to be one of these things that in the last 10, 15 years of discourse we've sort of chucked out, along with like the idea of objectivity, the idea of objective reporting, that's been kind of called into question. A lot of journalists have taken a viewpoint, have become sort of like activist journalists. So it's really, really difficult. I think you do need these abstract concepts which aim at fairness. And the minute you abandon those, it might improve material conditions for a short space of time, but it does steer you away from the road of like aiming for that perfect balance. I don't feel like we're in a period where we're aiming for that balance at the moment. And to connect it back to masculinity, is it a good thing that we're going through a period where we're questioning the more toxic aspects of masculinity? Absolutely, that's good. But if in the process of doing that, we cut men out of the conversation, we cut men out of the jobs market, and we cut them out of a connection to authentic and positive ways of being, then what you're going to have is a bunch of alienated men. And what do alienated men do? They turn their pain into violence. That's why these questions are expedient. And that's really why I wanted to write this series. I feel like my experience of growing up as a man and the influences that shaped me led me to be who I am and to have the experiences that I've had. I've had a life of feeling like not enough of a man. I've had a life of feeling like I don't have the social qualities to get ahead and join organizations or, climb the ladder career-wise. I felt like I've had a quite othering, alienating experience because the version of masculinity that I inhabit and that I project or perform, if you want to put it in the Judith Butler terms, doesn't really match up to any version of masculinity that I can point at, right? Like, I can't put myself into a box and say I'm one of those guys. Like, I'm not a sports guy. I'm not even really like a music guy in the same way that other people are. I'm not any type of guy that I can identify in the culture, nor do I necessarily think that like I embody a type of guy that should be represented in the culture. I have a lot of doubts about myself and how I behave and how I think and what I say. I think most of the time I'm a fucking asshole. So how did I end up there, and how do I stop more confused and in pain young men becoming like me and feeling quite lost in life at times? That I think, the Manosphere does offer an answer to that. The Manosphere says, get tougher, get more swole, forget about morality. Life is about power. You need to dominate. And so that's the one side of the manosphere. The other is like, everyone hates you. Women hate you. If you're white, black people are against you. If you're black, white people are against you. And so therefore, come over here with us and we'll all have a kind of complaining session about it. And then we get more and more bitter until violence feels like a justified answer. Like, neither of these answers are good. There isn't a middle path where we can point to like some figureheads who we can say these are good men. And even if those men exist, they're not necessarily celebrated. But that was one of the reasons I got some guest authors involved in this series as well, is that the number of versions of masculinity that exist, all of our experiences of being men, they are totally different and they're individual and they're unique, you know? And so by bringing in other writers like yourself, Jason, or like you and Morrison recently published an essay with us, which was about the issue of suicide in his family. I've got another one coming up from a guy who is a non-binary cage fighter. And he's talking about like the different adverts that he gets served on social media due to occupying those two identity categories. He gets marketed at from both sides. So I think, you know, that's what I was trying to create with this series is just to say there are, you know, as many different versions of masculinity as there are men. The versions that we're sold by capitalism are not necessarily the only ones that you have to try and fit yourself into. That the experience of struggling is something that's quite common to men. That's in fact why I called it crisis masculinity, right? And I kind of addressed this thesis in the final chapter, which is coming up. If I could define, yeah, but if I could define what being a man is about, it's about facing down crises. It's about solving problems. It's about, you know, it's about being able to be the one who fixes things. You know, these are all sort of quite traditional masculine qualities, but they're also ones that we have to have. We're the people who fix things. We're the people who build things. And we have to be able to inhabit that in a positive way. We have to be able to look at ourselves and the crises that we've faced and the things that we've overcome and say that gives us worth and value. We have to be able to consider the way in which we support our partners or our children, the way that we support ourselves, the way we show up for our friends. These are the kind of qualities that make you a good man, I think. And we need to find a way to translate that into cultural capital that isn't about being an alienated man, aggrieved, entitled, or about being a strong man who's tough and doesn't give a fuck and can do whatever the heck he likes. We need a middle road. And those men already exist, you know, those men already exist. They're your husbands, your fathers, your brothers, your sons. They already exist. Most men are good men, I think, rather than most men are bad men. But we seem to be elevating a lot of bad men and pushing a lot of good men who feel pain into very dangerous places, you know?
I was having a similar. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't know if most men are good men.
Maybe that's overstating the case. The capability to be good men would maybe be a better way of phrasing it.
Sure. Well, here's the thing, right? In a lot of online feminist spaces now, they'll show you an actual spectrum. And I had this discussion with Jason before where I was explaining to him that it's a spectrum. On one end, you'll have good men, and on the other one, you'll have bad men. And I was like, I think you're under the impression that more men are good than are actually good. And he's like, so there's more serial killers? And I'm like, no, it's not that there's more bad men per se. It's that more things more men do can be bad. And a lot of men seem very influenced by other men, not to do good, but to do bad. And they'll
Give me an example.
It seems like if there's a group of men around, and one guy says something really crass or ridiculous, we would, as feminists, consider them complicit if the other men laugh. So it's like they're not the one who said the thing, but they are the one who laughed. which puts them farther.
Why does everyone laugh? What if people are quiet?
That may
That
also
doesn't work
be
for
a
your whole
level-
example, does it? Angry
No.
feminist.
That may also be a level of complicity. What
So
we would
you get
want,
to win either way.
what we would want is a man to say that's not funny, which is sort of what we saw with the hockey team and Kash Patel situation when Trump calls and says all the things about the women's hockey team.
Mhm.
But what would it be like if one of the men was like, you know what, we shouldn't do that? But there isn't going to be a man who would do that in most cases. And so it seems like they're all sort of averaging themselves out to whatever the worst man is doing.
I mean, the idea of complicity in that whole scenario, which I do not agree with. I think it's a horrible scenario because
Okay.
a lot of people just don't like confrontation. So you're
Sure.
assuming that the person that is the most confrontational and the best way to deal with a confrontational person is confrontation. Now you're saying that a good man is only one that is confrontational. So
I'm not necessarily saying
you are
that.
saying that because what you're saying is escalating a situation.
But I would say also there are plenty of occasions
There's plenty of
where
occasions,
people have
right?
looked on to men and some of their behaviors
Uh-huh.
and wondered why they were
Let's
silent.
stay with your example of escalation. So you want in a bar where people are drinking alcohol, and someone blurts out something stupid, you then want to see Roadhouse happen.
I didn't say that. I feel like
You didn't not say that.
now. We're actually talking about a bunch of men sitting in a room.
We're talking about a bar. That was your situation. So there could be men and women sitting in the room.
Bar.
So if the bar is filled with white guys and one white guy says, nigger, the other white guys are complicit in his racism. They may not think that that's a cool thing to say. They're just ignoring him because he's an a-hole. But now you want them to stand up and beat that guy up? You want them to say something to that guy? If they say anything to that guy, hold on. If they say anything to that guy, what do you think he's going to do? Oh, I'm sorry. If I'm bold enough to say nigger in a bar, regardless if it's full of white people or not, I probably want some trouble.
So in the scenario I outlined, I just said that the man said something crass. I didn't specify what the crass thing was.
What is the crass thing?
So in my mind, the crass thing was something that had to do with gender or sex or that.
Okay, well, let's specify.
Something about, right?
Okay.
So I'm not working with that example that's not.
Well, let's specify as the guy says, I hate stupid bitches. I have to respond to that now.
Here's the thing. In the end, you can say a lot of bad things, ill things, wrong things happen because good men do nothing. And then that would be the same for anybody else, not just men.
So a good man has to fight.
Can I come
Are
in here?
men afraid of each other?
I
men
want
afraid of each other?
Yeah.
I want to back up ToUsaint because I think there's some real truth to what you're saying. The thing I think you're describing is the groupthink that happens in men's spaces. And
Yes.
it happens because men do not want to be seen as the ones being like a bitch, the ones being like, you know, the ones taking the tone into something serious. Like when men speak in men's spaces, there's often this level of like quote unquote banter, right? Like locker room banter as it applied to Trump. And you don't challenge that because you don't want to be the one who is bringing the tone down or like spoiling the evening or, you know, ruining the atmosphere or coming across as like a jerk, right? But similarly, that's the same reason you don't tell your friend you're in pain. That's the same reason you don't tell your friend you're struggling. That's the same reason you don't sit in a bar and come out and say, you know what, guys, I think I'm an alcoholic. Or, you know what, guys, I thought about killing myself all of last week. Because there's like an atmosphere created when men are together that is about not challenging those things, not challenging fucked up things that people say, not allowing yourself to be vulnerable or open, and instead just being one of the guys. And that in itself, I think, is toxic. Is there a way to call out the fucked up behavior or the fucked up statements that your male friends make in that bar situation that Jason described without sounding like a bit of an asshole? Maybe not, but maybe we should sort of like lean in a little bit more to being like, I'm going to be the asshole here. The problem is when that itself becomes the arms race, when that becomes the thing that men are trying to outbid each other to do, is criticize other men for saying things, for doing things that are fucked up. But, you know, all of the predators and psychic vampires and fucked up dudes that have kind of paraded through my life and probably both of yours, one of the reasons they got away with it so long is that nobody wanted to challenge it. Nobody wanted to call it out. And I don't mean call it out as in like make a social media post saying all men are trash. I mean, call it out as in challenge your friend's behavior. I've seen a lot of people turn a blind eye to a lot of stuff because it was just easier. You know, I can think of one situation where, you know, it was an open secret in this community of performers that I was part of, that somebody was taking advantage of young female performers, taking them back to his house, pressuring them into sex. He was also kind of being abusive towards his girlfriend. She reported him to the police. No charges were brought. And a feminist who was in that circle, when I tried to speak to her about that and say, you know, why are you appearing on a bill with this person, said, well, he was never charged, right? So there's like a level of like omerta that happens particularly in men's spaces. I don't think women have as much of a problem with calling each other out for saying something stupid or doing something really fucked up.
Agreed.
Whereas dudes, I think, have a real problem with that. They don't want to be the first one to like cross the line, and that will go farther and farther and farther. So how do we change that? It's about creating spaces where, you know, it's okay to open up and it's okay to be critical, that you're not like spoiling the vibe by doing that. Yeah, so I have a degree of sympathy for what Toussaint's saying there. I think we do.
I just don't like the scenario where you're going to say, well, anything you do bad, it makes you a bad man. So it's like, okay, well, then there's a lot more bad men. And if bad man is yelling out something crass, regardless of the context, just yelling out something crass and rude in a bar, and I guess you're complicit, a phrase so many people love, complicity, right? Right? Because you get to do nothing. You get to do nothing. And what if I didn't hear it? What if I wasn't paying attention? What if I don't care? Right? If it's a threatening situation, which you didn't add to the situation, right? But let's just say for all intents and purposes, it's a threatening situation. I'm sure people would jump in. I'm sure it's happened. I'm sure it's happened. I haven't been in every bar. Okay. But generally, if someone's being threatening in a bar, even with language, somebody steps in and says, hey, that's too much.
And those are the good men, Jason. I think that's something, you know, maybe all three of us can agree on.
I think that's what most people do.
Knowing the moment to say, this isn't just fucked up humor. This is actually, you're saying some fucked up shit. You know, the in terms of like men I admire that I've seen do stuff like that, those are some of the situations where I've been like, that's a good dude. When I've seen them stand up for someone, defend someone, again, these are like positive masculine qualities that we don't really celebrate that much, is being there for people, supporting them, showing up for them, speaking up for them. These are all things that we could put in a little box marked positive masculinity, I think.
I want to say a couple of things. So firstly, I think in that scenario, you don't necessarily have to confront the guy on the spot. If you're not a confrontational person, it does not have to be a fight. It would be, I mean, you can pull the guy aside and say, you know, whatever.
That's confrontational. Anytime you're coming up to the person that's confrontational. So if you're not a confrontational person, you want them to be confrontational no matter what. You are not a confrontational person.
Right.
You're not going to confront that person because you're not confrontational.
I probably wouldn't do it in front of a bunch of people. I would probably do it later.
You would?
I mean, what do you want to stand for? I don't want to be, I'm not talking about strangers. I'm talking about friends. You're talking about a bar fight. We're talking about two different things now.
Okay, so now you're talking about your friend. So let's get the situation right. Write it all out in clear English. So let me make sure I'm getting this right. It's a group of friends at a bar, and one friend yells out something rude.
Okay.
I'm asking you, is that what you're talking about?
Sure. I'm
And
talking
it's
about
not
friends
sure,
talking to
it's
you.
yes or
You
no.
keep putting them in a bar. I don't know why. Fine, they're in a
Because
bar.
you
Okay.
said bar. So where
All
are
right.
they? Where
Okay.
are they?
So
I
fine.
want to make this exactly what you want. Where are
Okay. They're in a bar. They're in a really,
No,
really
no. Where
cool
did you want them initially?
I didn't imagine them anywhere but like around a table.
Okay, so
So
they're around a table at somebody's house.
fine.
Is that fair?
Sure.
And someone says something rude. I'm asking.
Crass, I said.
Okay, can you give me
But
an
I mean
example?
crass in terms of sex or gender, something about the women folk.
Okay. If it's a group of friends, most people tend to say, hey, that's not cool.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of people get a pass for saying very fucked up shit, and I think it is to do with not wanting to like break that fourth wall of it's all banter, you know. And I'm definitely not
Still,
saying like
though?
banter is dangerous. I'm not saying you can't have banter. I'm saying that knowing where the line is and being prepared to stand up, I do think that's valuable. I definitely.
But
think
still, do people let stuff like that ride? I mean, this
A
is also
lot of
an era
people are
of
afraid of their
everything.
friends.
This is the era of everything I say wrong gets amplified.
I think they're more likely to call it out if you post it on Facebook for sure.
I definitely think that. I definitely think if you post something online, everybody will call you out if you said something mildly rude. But if you feel comfortable enough around those people to say the rude thing, those people probably agree with you.
Yeah.
Unless you're just trying to feel out people you already know. That just sounds like a weird scenario. It just sounds like a magical scenario that has to fit this theory that people just let shit slide.
Here's another thing we're missing from this is like the sense of like irony or parody or like shit talking. Like, you know, that's there's a humorlessness in calling people out and saying, oh, that's fucked up, you shouldn't say that. You know, you have to be able to judge tone as well, right? So like if someone's telling a fucked up joke and it is intended as a joke and you don't call them out for it, I don't think that makes you complicit. I think it just makes you like socially aware. But if the joke crosses the line, let me take it back to another scenario, right? There's a person in my family who is, let's just call it what it is. He's a racist. Now, this person, I can't call him out on everything that he says. If I did that, I would just be falling into the trap that he's trying to bait, which is by saying racist stuff to me, who he thinks of as someone woke, in order to try and bait me into responding. So most of the time I just fucking ignore it, right? But one time he made a comment about basically like black people being the interracial relationship, people from interracial relationships being overrepresented in adverts. And that fucking got my goat because my brother-in-law's Moroccan, my nieces are both half Moroccan, half British. And I think it's fucking amazing that there's more interracial couples in adverts, that there's more mixed race kids in adverts, you know, on billboards modeling. I think that's great. And I think there's value in that for people that I love. So I definitely fucking took him to task for that, you know, because it's specific, right? But if he wants to try and kind of bait me by talking about, oh, there's too many refugees coming in on small boats, I mean, you know, all that makes me think is like, you've been watching too much GB news, like go on, fuck off, enjoy your Piers Morgan, dickhead kind of thing. So yeah, you have to operate judgment with this stuff. I don't think you can say, call out everything or you're complicit, for sure. But you know, calling stuff out is good. It can change things if it's done in the right way.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
But do you think though that whole scenario is kind of part of what does lead a bit of a pipeline, because there it has been, not so much as there used to be, but so much content on men are annoying. Don't talk to me at the bar. Don't talk to me ever. Don't talk to me when I'm walking down the street. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. Tucson?
I don't know. Is there a question? Like what?
Yeah. Like the good bad spectrum for you.
Right. which was going to be actually the second thing I was going to say. I actually don't like the good bad binary. I think it's very religious, specifically like Christian, maybe Catholic too. And I really don't like it in a lot of other discourses. It's very black and white thinking, which is something that Bram touches on in his.
I mean, but that's the point of being complicit, right? That everyone is complicit in the bad behavior if their way of dealing with the bad behavior may look different, because situations are, it's hard. You'd have to paint the perfect scenario for one to stand up. And I think Bram painted a pretty good one with the situation of the racist family member. But
I mean, I can see certainly tons of complications with the word complicit. And thank you for that, Jason. I will be more precise with my language going forward, because I realize in that scenario of the dude sitting around the table that I am the observer, and I'm not just like a floating brain. I am myself, which is a lady person, contrary to what my avatar shows today. And so that is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing things not being called out and taking issue with that. But I can't really determine complicity if somebody pulls their friend aside later.
I mean,
I just know what it looks like.
Are you in the room in the scenario, or are you the magical?
Yeah, I see. I can literally see them in my head. I see a bunch of dudes sitting around the table. The chairs are green.
You're not
the
at the table.
Oh, what?
I'm
not at the table. I'm watching them.
So
I may be watching TV, or I may be in the room.
So they don't think you're there. So like, hey,
right,
vagina.
I'm observing the menses in their natural habitat at a table.
I like the way Jason was just like, vagina.
Yeah, that's I think that's the way she sees men talking. Like, hey guys.
But not Jason. Not all men. I don't see all men talking that way. I want to say also, this was the third thing I was going to say, that sometimes I do go to cafes and performatively read King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, Rediscovering Masculinity Through the Lens of Archetypical Psychology by Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette. I am an ally to the menses. Applaud me.
I'll have to write that title down because that sounds good.
Had you said Tommy Curry, I would have believed you.
I love Robert Moore. Actually, it's a good book. He is like I guess it's proto Manosphere, the men's rights activist. Like not the ones that are like really upset about divorce and stuff, or are necessarily divorced. These are the ones that go into the woods and play bongos. Those guys.
To give Jason some credit, just so you know, maybe we can wrap up the whole complicity thing. I do have a problem with that phrase, silences complicity. Not because I don't think it can be true, because I think it absolutely can. I just think that if you embed that concept too deeply in the way that you're approaching the world, the flip side of it is performatively calling everything out, of having to have an opinion on everything, of having to sort of like preemptively position yourself as a good person who's exempt from the critiques that could be applied if you stayed silent. That's an immensely like anxiety causing thing that I think particularly on social media people struggle with. And that's why you see them posting about like whatever the issue or topic du jour is. They're trying to stake out their claim to preempt criticism of themselves. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're behaving or that they believe any of these virtuous things or behaving in virtuous ways. It just means that they're very afraid of the guillotine, you know? So yeah, I think silences complicity can be a bit of a dangerous one, because it implies that you always have to be speaking, you always have to be calling out, and if you take that too to heart, then you're looking around for things to call out. You're not like, oh, somebody said some fucked up shit, I better speak. You're kind of going, oh, this guy's speaking now. Is he going to say some fucked up shit? Hold on, I spotted a fucked up thing. I need to comment on this right now. So both sides of that equation are fucked. People need to be able to pick their moment with these things, and it's vital that they do pick their moments, but it's also vital that it doesn't become performative, you know? I
think that's absolutely right, and I think that's very true. I have a lot of beliefs that I feel very strongly about, but only some that I am well versed in talking about, and this is not one of them.
I wonder
So,
been at a table.
well, no, I'm glad that we had a chance to examine some of this today, and I will be replaying this show. I hope other people will too. I hope
just feel
somebody
so
learned
bad.
something today.
If you were actually at a table with me and like 3 other dudes, you'd be so bored at how dull the conversation was about stupid.
I have been at a table with you and a bunch of other dudes.
How bored were you? You left.
I think that you very much think of things from your own point of view, and I see other men follow you.
And
So
talk about guitars?
I can see you thinking about these situations sort of differently about what men would do, because there may be things that you would or would not do, and I see men follow you. So,
but yeah, I am talking about guitars.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine a situation where men would try to hang even though they don't know about guitars and try to talk to you about them. I can imagine that.
But you have been at a table with me and you did walk away, so you have to admit that.
I was at a table with you and I walked away?
Yeah.
When was this?
Oh, every time we hang out.
I walked away.
Yeah.
I don't even walk away from when we do a show. I stay and talk to you for an hour after every show. Like, I walked away from the table when Ben Burgess was giving me COVID. I walked away from that table.
No, dude, you totally walked away from me.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, see how
Did I
easy
put the car on fire?
I guess
I
we
don't
look at things from
remember
your perspective of not walking away from me in New York City.
Oh wow! I honestly don't remember. Were there rats? Did everybody walk away? I don't remember any of this.
Bram, by the way, the Toussaint is a bully. And when I was screaming because I saw rats as big as small children in New York City, she called me every name that was not masculine.
I thought it was so funny. I never do that, honestly. I thought it was really funny because you were so loud. And it's like the rats were not even responding to your volume. They were just like, whatever, man, it's New York.
Yeah, it's New York.
But isn't this a great example, right? Like, being afraid of a child-sized rat is a perfectly reasonable thing for a human being to react to negatively. But when it's a dude reacting like that, the response is, oh, well, you're less of a man, right? And that's an understandable knee-jerk reaction that I think everybody culturally is trained to reach for. Oh, you're not being very stoic. You're not just accepting that child-sized rat and being like, well, I could probably arm wrestle it, so it's fine. Why aren't men allowed to scream and jump on a table when they see a giant rat? Does that make them gay? Does that make them less of a man? No, it doesn't. Like, fundamentally, it doesn't. But even just as in between friends as a laugh, like, that is the first thing you reach for, and it's the first thing I reach for. When my friends are being like, I don't know, if they're deviating from the path of manliness, suddenly I become a cowboy, being like, well, better round up the steers. You know what I mean? And that's we are programmed to do that to each other. Like, that's another thing I kind of write about in the series, is the way in which men are programmed to bully each other into remaining in a very strict, narrow lane of what it means to be a man, and unlearning that programming. Is it easy? Is it fuck? It's really difficult. But it is something that's probably worth attempting. And if we don't attempt it, we end up with a situation where, someone's going to come on the internet and start their cam show and be like, this is how you are a real man. And definitely don't be afraid of the rat,
A real man reads Marcus Aurelius to a rat very calmly.
See, this is look at the standards. I have to fucking lasso these massive horse-sized rats in New York.
Horse-sized.
Right? She's so mean.
I think that's so funny.
Scenario where a bunch of dudes are at a table and being mean, and Jason's go fuck them up. Listen to what he said. Go fuck him up. Now I got to fuck up some strange guy that knows karate.
Just change the topic to guitars.
Wherever you guys are watching or listening to the show later, there is a link in the description to Bram's Substack where you can find his work. Also, Bram is one of the publishers at Revol Press. So what is the next book that's coming out on Revol?
Oh, we have some really exciting stuff coming up. We've got a book by Rob Walker, which is about Carl Jung. Rob is an ecotherapist who uses Jungian ideas about working with the shadow in his practice, kind of guiding people through therapy using the natural environment. So it's halfway between a kind of ecological manifesto and a kind of rehabilitation of Jung, right-wing coded spaces in which he's often referenced. And coming up after that were Daniel Tutt and Derek Varn, which were just in the early stages of kind of pulling that together. I think there's going to be some stuff on the Revol blog about that one very soon. I'm working on my next book as well. I've kind of been deep in the reads with that one, probably coming out next year, which is about the life and ideas of Philip K. Dick. So I'm rereading all of the novels at the moment. Just surrounding myself with big piles of Dick, and like really getting into thinking about the aesthetics of Dick. There's a lot of Dick happening over here at the moment, which is good, very masculine, or very gay, or both. Why can
it be both? Can it be both? That's I think that's the big one. Is can it be both?
Wait.
Thank you for having me on to talk about this series. I think when I started and when I announced it, I think people thought it was either going to be just about the manosphere or just about gender ideology and gender identity. I think, maybe now that they've read a few pieces, they understand that it's a little more personal, a little more cultural. There's a lot of like film criticism in there, a lot of analysis of like tropes and ideas that exist about what it means to be a man. So I hope it's been interesting for people reading. If you haven't checked it out yet, I hope you can kind of find a part of it that speaks to you. And I'm looking forward to publishing the final chapter where I do finally get round to the what is to be done part of the series. That'll be coming out soon.
I really enjoyed the series. Thank you. I really enjoyed the series, and I can't speak highly of it enough. It was just so interesting, and I personally would like to have you back on.
Oh, this is your first time on the show with Bram?
Yeah.
It's always been me and you, Bram?
Yeah, it's just been us solo
really?
before.
Okay.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the Manosphere discussion that you guys had a few weeks back as well. That's definitely an episode worth rewatching, I think.
Very cool. I wanted to ask you, is your podcast mainly about this, or
no? I mean, I basically am led by whatever the subject matter of the guest is an expert in. But I've had loads of different people on there. I've had like artists, philosophers. One guy who was a combat magician who literally believed that he could summon the spirit of the comics character John Constantine. I've had a guy who was president of the 1960s Berkeley protests and then became a Maoist. I just love people with an interesting story and interesting ideas. Even if I don't necessarily believe in or agree with those ideas, I find it fascinating to kind of draw out of people what they're into and what their thing is, and get them to talk about it. So yeah, tune into the next one. It'll be completely different from the one before. The last episode was a stained glass maker who makes socialist theater. So it could be anything.
Bram also spent years making music, and so he does have some great music episodes as well. So I know
he has a keychain, like the chain that goes all the way around your pants. That
I am wearing a wallet chain. How did you know that? I'm sitting down.
That's what it is. Yeah. It's a wallet chain. The second thing I wanted to ask you, who is your best and worst of the Manosphere? Top best, top worst.
Oh gosh.
Good question.
You know what? Like in terms of best, I'm probably going to put up there the two reporters who infiltrated Andrew Tate's camp for their book. That he was making documentaries for Vice for years. Let me just get name of this guy up. It's two of them who make the films.
I thought you were going to say Richard Reeves.
I do like Richard Reeves, but again, with Richard Reeves and Hayden Lukianoff, I probably disagree with as much as I agree with. Whereas I think what Jamie Tassin is the name, Matt Shea and Jamie Tassin, they put themselves in harm's way and in great danger in order to investigate Andrew Tate's war room and expose it as a pyramid scheme. And they also contributed quite significantly to him being charged with sex trafficking. So in terms of investigative journalists prepared to get their hands dirty, those two guys I have an incredible amount of admiration for. And I mentioned Simon James Copland as well. His book, he's a gay man from Australia. You know, you could argue that he doesn't have a dog in the fight of toxic masculinity for those reasons, but he chose to approach it from a place of sympathy and like really deeply research it. So I would urge anyone who's interested in the Manosphere to read both those books, Clown World and The Male Complaint. In terms of picking a villain, though, I think I probably have to go for Trump, simply because he's kind of the king shit atop the mountain of shit, right? Like he was carried into office on a wave of podcasts and horrible toxic stuff, and you know, the way that he's weaponized all of these horrible online cultures and kind of given them license and permission to say really fucked up shit. If anyone's more complicit in the continuing kind of dominance of the Manosphere over the conversation, I'm not sure if I could name him. I certainly wouldn't want to give credit to a kind of little chinless wonder like Tate for being a more of an influence than he is. I think he's a small, sad little man. We'll probably see him end up in jail. Whereas, you know, Trump could be the last president we ever have for the United States. That's a scary thought. And you know, I think he's grooming Barron for the seat. Honestly, I watched the Melania doc. I don't know if you've watched that, but I mean, it's fucking shitty. But there's a point at which they're at a rally and Barron stands up and he's got the exact same facial expression as his dad had when he was young. And, you know, he's been the gateway into the podcastosphere for Trump as well, arranging the sit downs with the likes of Rogan and Theo Vaughn. So, yeah, the Trump dynasty, I will make my main villains.
That's fair.
People in the chat are asking about the Australian writer's name.
Oh, it's Simon James Copland. I don't know if you can see that. Try and get it.
Simon James Copeland. I'll write it in the chat.
A really fantastic book, and I've got a guest essay by Simon coming up in the next few weeks.
You've connected with him then?
Nice.
Yeah, I had him on the show, and brilliant chat. So yeah, he kindly agreed to donate a short essay.
Oh damn!
All right, very cool.
Bram, I know it's a little later where you are, so thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. And again, wherever you guys are watching or listening to the show later, there's a link in the description to Bram's personal Substack where you can follow his Manosphere series. Sorry, Crisis of Masculinity series. God damn it. Say Manosphere enough and it's just stuck in your
That's the interesting question for me. I wonder what the listeners would make of this. Is am I part of the Manosphere now I've written about it? I've struggled with that question.
I don't think you're part of the Manosphere.
Thank you again for having me on.
I think enjoy it. The most recent entry is the one that maybe hit me the hardest because it's such a autobiographical look at something that you know, I don't know if most people want to talk about. The self-harm and addiction. So
it's a bit more of that stuff coming. I mean, one thing we didn't talk about today is borderline personality disorder, which was a diagnosis I was given a few years back and I'm still in recovery for. You know, I know we're trying to wrap things up here, but like they did a survey of men in jail where they gave them the questionnaire that allows you to diagnose BPD, emotionally unstable personality disorder, is sometimes what it's known as. And it's underdiagnosed in men. Like there aren't many men walking around with this diagnosis, but nearly 50% of incarcerated men who they surveyed met this definition. And it's usually caused, it's a trauma response, condition, and it's usually caused by early childhood trauma, including poverty, neglect, abandonment. And a lot of the men in jail have experienced that. And that's arguably why they've ended up there, because their behaviors manifest as like violence or controlling behavior or alcoholism or drug addiction. And these are the things that land you in jail. So yeah, I've got an essay coming up which addresses my diagnosis with that condition, how that affected me, what it means for society at large. It's just great to be able to kind of talk about these things openly, because we're not encouraged to do that. And if that makes me part of the Manosphere, then I hope I'm a positive part of it.
I want to talk to you about that too. It's gonna be good. Okay.
Well, thank you, Bram, and have a good rest of your evening day.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Toussaint. Great to meet you.
And before we go, it looks like we have a super chat. And by the way, for people that complain that so-and-so doesn't read the super chats, I don't see the screen all the time as I'm looking into the camera. So as
you're looking at angels on the ceiling in your 1980s personal class picture.
woke up today and chose violence.
I love it when your stream freezes and you're just looking up at the ceiling smiling. You get the best freeze frames, I have to say. Maybe that'll be my next avatar.
You get the best freeze frames because no one sees your face.
I 100% agree with that. You'll always catch me being clavicular. I am not looking at myself through the lens of social media.
Oh, no, there's no pictures of you online. You've done a miraculous job of eliminating your face from the internet. And bravo to you for that.
Thank you. I'm quick to say untag me.
You're also a hermit, so we can't forget the hermit part.
As far as you know. I'm at tables with dudes.
You're at the dude table. So mad about the table you made up. Okay, so there's one guy that's an assassin. And the assassin says, gays, hate him. Why don't you beat that guy up?
Oh my gosh. Jason, get him.
Toussaint is that woman that is at the bar in those movies where they, always bend over in front of a stranger to get the boyfriend to fight. That's Toussaint.
Oh my gosh. They say that if two men fight over a woman, it's the fight they wanted, not the woman.
I've never heard that.
I'm just picking up a napkin.
You just pick up napkins in that mini skirt all the time. Like, who the fuck's wearing a mini skirt in New York in December?
Oh my gosh. Oh, super chat.
Oh, super chat. Let me read the super chat. Sorry. I feel so bad reading this now.
I know.
Because I don't know when in the. Can you see the time? Oh, this is like an hour ago. As a lower class Hispanic man, affirmative action never helped me, and my only roles in Hollywood are Tony Montana or Chi-Chi Rodriguez.
Chi-Chi Rodriguez. I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Tony Montana is Cuban, but I will say that as a Puerto Rican, I think you were well represented in the film we watched on movie night a few years back called Life is Hot in Cracktown.
I knew you were going to say that.
That's the only thing I could think we watched with Puerto Ricans in it.
I mean, apparently I'm living in that because the sirens are outrageous. Oof. Life is hot in my town.
To this day, the funniest thing you said about that movie, and I can't remember if you said it, was when the girl got peed on in the first 18 seconds of the film, and you're like, this is not how real people live.
No.
No one first of all, can I just defend myself real quick one more time on Life is Hot in Cracktown? And
for choosing it? No, I heard your story, but you tell everybody. Go ahead.
Someone mentioned the movie to me, and I thought the title was ridiculous. And I said, let's watch it. And I hadn't watched it before. It was my first time seeing it. I didn't know anything about the film. Nothing. I just thought, oh, this will be funny because if I watched a ton of Death Wish movies and those like pro crime, what do you call them? Crime bill movies in the late 80s and 90s, they show a certain amount of violent depravity, but the depravity you see in Life is Hot in Cracktown. First of all, remember the little boy that just stayed dirty the whole movie, even though his parents had a bathtub?
That's right. With dirt smeared on his
There's
face.
dirt smeared on his face for the whole movie. It's like no one's gonna wash this kid's face. There's a whole bathroom right there.
True.
But the movie opens. There's like this little girl. It's not a little girl. She's like a teenager, I guess, and she's kind of like frolicking on the inner city basketball court. And then she sees what we think are her friends, and all of a sudden, they just start peeing on her. And you're like, whoa, who does that? Who does that? Toussaint, who also grew up in the Bronx during one of the more tumultuous eras of the New York City. You know, and she grew up playing double dutch in the projects, doing all those things that people do when you're from New York in a certain time. And she goes, when I watched the movie, my first thought was, why is it only raining on her?
Exactly.
I laughed so hard. Again, I can't remember if you said it on air or if you said it to me personally. But that was up there in one of the more funny things you've ever said. Because the way you said it was just so honest. Like, why? I don't understand. I think there's a error in the editing.
I didn't understand. I really didn't. I was so confused. There is a character in the gang that pees on things and pees on people. So he did it again. And I was like, wait a minute. Did he pee on the first girl? In the first 18 seconds of the movie?
That was the gang that was going around giving people enemas?
Yes.
What gang walks around with a hot water bottle? Enema time.
They were giving old people enemas.
You better pay your money. It's time to pay. Someone said the fuck.
Exactly.
Someone made a movie called Life is Hot in Cracktown, and the bad gang leader is played by, talking about masculinity, Diana Ross's son.
That's right.
And it was like, oh my God.
What's it called? It's hot.
Yeah. Dude, I was sitting there. I was so embarrassed by that movie. Then there was like a trans character in the movie that didn't they stop being trans because they were going to lose their inheritance?
Because they were super rich trans person.
Like,
and their parents were like, stop being trans or we won't give you money anymore. And they were like,
the other trans, wasn't the other trans person a female actress, or was she playing I don't remember. Was she playing a trans or was she playing a female?
She was playing trans.
She was playing trans, right? Yeah.
Wait, it was that black lady who was in Scandal, right?
Oh, what is her name? Black lady. Fine black woman.
Kerry Washington.
Dr. Paul, where are you when we need you?
Kerry Washington.
Kerry Washington is thank you, Toussaint. Kerry Washington is great. And I feel like me and I almost said your name. Me and Toussaint were watching the movie the same way, like this. Like, I feel like that was your face watching that movie as well, because again, growing up in, 1984 Bronx, New York, under the rubble, you yourself never saw this level of depravity with young people.
It was ridiculous, stacked on top of ridiculous. Real quick, going back to the rich trans lady, she had a choice. The family said, stop being trans or we'll cut you out the will and you won't have any money. And this lady was like, I am not going to be poor. Oh, hell no. I am not going to live my truth because I will not be like these other people. I cannot be poor.
That she was slumming with. Remember, she's slumming with these people and doing all this dope and shit like that, like not giving a hot fuck about anything. And then it's like, we're gonna cut you off. It's like, oh, you mean I gotta pay for drugs by like sucking cock? Oh, fuck that noise.
She's
I'm
like,
not gonna pay for drugs like everybody else.
I need this mountain of coke. I need it.
Like, what are you talking about?
Like,
I am not going to do. I'm not going to get caught up by the enema mafia over here because I owe them money.
The enema mafia. Why do you have a gang that does enemas on old dudes for their SSI checks? I don't even. And everybody's living in like, it looks like these rundown brown apartments where everything's dark and just like.
Just dirt. The little kid. I remember, I think I paused the movie. I was like, why isn't no one giving the kids a bath? They have a bathroom. You can stop smoking crack for like 1 minute to let the kid take a bath. You're not even smoking crack in the bathroom. They can step over you. Where are they peeing?
The kids were by themselves and still didn't go in the bathroom.
Oh my God, the kids. Oh.
The boy is trying to get with a girl and he still doesn't go in the bathroom.
It's like,
he does not wash.
Just the dirty white t-shirt let you know that he's dirty. They can't put a white shirt on him.
It was so nasty.
Like, even when the enema mafia walked into the old guy's apartment, they were like, where's the money? And it's like, whoa, how much were you really getting off the pawpaw?
Facts.
Like, come on, go rob a drug dealer like any self-respecting gang member would do. That's how this shit works. You rob people that have money.
They were
that
going
are
to rob
in legal economies. You don't rob people that are going to tell on you.
Yeah, that's fact.
And
They wanted his rent money.
Yeah, we're going to take your rent money, and if not, we're going to shove this tube up your butt. And it's like, why would you do?
Oh,
you could just beat him up. You could have just hit him.
That's a fact.
You could have hit him. But they chose a certain level of like, come on, man. And but that to me, this is mean and this is all projection. This is all projection. But I feel like that's the movie that Jacob Savage from Lost Generations wanted to write. Like he wanted to write. They won't let me. Ain't a rape movie. And if they don't let me write my rape movie, because Hollywood's too woke. That guy got to write that fuck shit. I got a whole bunch of ideas of how brown people are horrible people and white people are not as horrible. They just don't wash themselves.
They just don't wash. I think you're right. I do. He wanted to write some horrible movie like this that we've been talking about for years. I think we need to do another movie night and play it again so that the newer people can see this monstrosity.
Is there enemies in the colonoscopy clan?
The colonoscopy clan, diabolical.
The only movie that I think comes close to it is the hip hop film that I watched, that we watched, where we get this from.
Be surprised how many people love the crack.
Fly by
Classic TIR.
Fly By Night is one of those movies where I watched it twice because I didn't believe what I saw the first time. I was like, did I just see a Zionist dialogue as a group of black men are signing a record deal?
And they resolve the scene by talking about cat shit as money. And I'm just like, are you serious? They gonna take all the cats. What?
And if Jews had it their way, brothers would be eating cat shit.
And then to take all the cats. Wait, what?
Brothers can't even have good cat shit to chew on because of the Jews. You're like, what? In the KRS-One fuck shit just happened in front of me. Yes. That can't be a real movie.
such little prompting for that speech to come out. Very weird.
wait, wait. Steve Damis says, "See, guys, so and so does read super chat."
So and so.
There was another scene in that movie that back to these white guys wrote these movies in the 90s, and it felt like I think I know what these black guys are writing in their scripts. And I always feel like when people get mad about like the idea of the wigger, it really is the abyss looking back. It really is. And when you watch that movie, you're like, man, this came out right after Juice. Like, think about that for a second. And Boys in the Hood, and I don't think it was out. Maybe It and Menace came out around the same time. But there's a scene where they're at a rap concert when the rap group finally blows up, and they're like at the big New York show, and this black guy, for no reason, there's first of all, there's little kids at this concert, like what were they, like 8? There's like these 2 8-year-olds at the concert.
They're like 8 and on a date.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
That's totally fine to have your 8-year-old out by themselves dating. And the 8-year-old girl is sitting on the shoulders of the 8-year-old boys, and they're sitting all the way in the back so she can see the concert. And this dude, and the dude was in like Redman videos or Naughty by Nature videos or Redman, I can't remember, but he was a New York video guy. He takes the little girl off the little boy unprovoked, and then just starts stabbing the shit out of the little boy. And you're like, what the fuck did you stab? He didn't do anything. They were just sitting there watching the show like you. Who does this? I've been to New York, but before I went to New York as an adult man, I'd been there as a young person. But before I went to New York as an adult man, my idea of New York was from all these 80s movies where New York looked like the one Toussaint played in, Amongst the Rubble.
Nice.
And,
oh my God. I've never been to Burned Out Bronx. Ford tells New York City drop dead. I don't know why you think I'm Pascal. I'm old enough to do that.
I'm just making up your story so no one puts 2 and 2 together.
Sure. Don't want to get doxxed.
But when I went, I remember I was like, I had to haul gear from like around the corner. And these black dudes ran up on me. And I was like, oh, shit. According to Spike Lee, this is it for me. And we had California license plates, of course, on the car. He said, hey, yo, you really from Cali? I was in Bed-Stuy. And I was like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, where are you? What are you doing here? Fucking carrying all this goofy shit. And I told them, and they ended up helping me. And we're actually really, really friendly. And asked me what I thought of the city and other shit. And I ended up talking to him for a while. And I thought to myself, I was like, oh, wow. These movies have greatly misrepresented the spirit of New York City. Like, these dudes didn't have to, they could have robbed me and there was nothing I could have done about it. But that was so far from what they wanted. They was like, hey, who are you? Oh, you're just playing a show? Okay, no problem. Here's some help. Good to meet you. Good luck on your journey. It's like, oh, New York is so much nicer than all the movies that we've watched depicting New York.
I told you, we're nice people.
I was not in like a great part of New York. I've been in some bad parts of places, and never has anyone stabbed a young boy for no reason.
Yeah.
Just no reason.
Well, I thought at first you were going to tell the story about how they were doing the rap show, and then some guy randomly does a drug sale on stage.
That was also a great scene in the.
Like, wait, what?
Like, did you just sell drugs to a random person on stage?
Yes.
Or with the white girl that walks in with her white date, and the white date sees the black people, and like the bass doo-doo-doo-doom, like oh, you're in a bad part of town now. and then the white date goes, I don't think this is working out. She goes, no, it's not. Have a good night. And then she goes and she fucks the guy that does a song about rape.
She does do that.
Well, the more he
the other guy who did the song about rape, no,
remember that was the thing. They traded off verses because remember when he writes the rape rap and the guy goes, "Huh, that's kind of wild. You think we should do that?" And he was like, "I'm so real that this is my neighborhood." I'm like, your neighborhood is just filled with rapists. Your neighborhood seems really frightening. You should find a better place to live. It's not gonna work out for you, homeboy. And fucking remember he reluctantly does the rap, and then he sees out of the corner of his eye the white girl, and she's like, yeah.
She did.
And he's like, oh, you like rape rap? And then I took it, didn't let her have it. Turn around, bitch, gonna stab it. And it's like, whoa, sir.
Yeah.
Please settle down.
Oh my god, that movie.
And then remember he broke up with her because after she let him play her cousin's bar mitzvah.
I mean, there was another like weird speech in the kitchen about how their rap is degenerate and that's not art or something like that. And I was just like, who's this weird aunt? Or was it the mom?
It was the mom, yeah.
She had a whole like Frankfurt School critique of everything they were doing. It's just like
Malcolm X said, by any means. Why is that the only thing you people quote of Malcolm X?
Yes. She got the drop on him. She got the drop on him. Oh my gosh.
I'm still trying to wrap my mind around the fact that we watch these movies multiple times on this channel.
We really, really did. And we need to do it again. I mean,
you think Cracktown needs to be watched again?
I feel more down for watching the other one. What's it called? Fly by Night. Chasing the Rat. Jason just kept saying, you could see Daryl Chill Mitchell's whole hog. And I told my friend that, and he's like, I do not want to watch this movie. I didn't know how to sell him on it.
You saw Daryl Chill Mitchell's whole fucking hog.
I never saw it.
I will pause the scene again so you can see it like there's a back into see the curvature of the hog there. There you see. Obviously, Mitchell has been circumcised, as you can tell from the.
I should explain that this is part of a scene in New York City where everyone has sex. Everyone is doing it at the exact same time. For some reason,
people are having sex. It's the movie for me peaks after there's a riot that's caused by the music itself. Scott and I have talked about this before, and I wish Pascal was there because, again, he was a little more alive to what we were joking about. But we were going, did you ever listen to rap from 1986 and think to yourself, people really murdered people to these songs? Like somebody got murdered to milk is chilling, this is chilling. Like, if you shot me while that shit was playing in the background, oh man,
that's so funny.
There's no way in the world you got killed during, like, if the Beastie Boys are playing and you're murdering people, or the Fat Boys or some shit like that.
Disorderlies in the background and you got killed.
I'm the king of rock, bitch. Did you just kill that guy to Run DMC? They the hardest niggas alive. I guess, but man, could you put on maybe some 70s Stax Soul? It would just sound cooler if you murdered him to a better soundtrack. It's like you're murdering to a joke song.
Oh, milk is chilling. If that's the last thing I hear in life, oh no.
Like if that's the saxophones of death that these young kids have been talking about.
I'm
Hey,
gonna
by
haunt
the
you.
way, these young kids have been talking about the ghetto saxophones and doing these little skits where you walk out of the projects and you hear the saxophones from Boys. This shit's been killing me. But if the last thing you hear when you walk out of the projects is fucking audio 2, or like cool mode, I go to work. Can you imagine walking down the street and hearing LL Cool J's radio and like, uh-oh, I think we're in the bad side of town.
This guy's singing about a radio.
Oh God, there's some kids doing the WAP and shit. Oh fuck, look, they're dancing. I think we better turn around. Like, imagine just the toughest dude in the hood. I can't live without my radio. Okay. Hope you got extra batteries in the trunk of your car then.
I always thought the audio 2 song was funny because he said down the road to the bank. I was like, what?
They were just saying words back then, dude.
Words together.
Even if you murdered somebody to rock him, which is like a lot cooler, it still doesn't really feel like a murder song. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
Like late 80s, early 90s rap murder music made way more sense. Those were soundtracks to your demise.
Yeah.
But if you were killing people between 81 and 87 with rap music,
Might have to postpone that murder.
yeah, you just wait, man. Just sandbag the numbers for Had we been alive, we should have done that. We could have just wait till 91. Trust me.
It's so much better.
It's gonna get so much better. I know you think Schoolie D is cool, but you can't play it every time you kill someone.
If you wait till around 2000, 50 Cent's gonna make a song with gunshots
As the
instead
snare.
of like drums.
Yeah, the gunshot's gonna be the snare. And you're gonna feel so much better when you murder people for no reason.
It's gonna be
But
great.
right now, this ain't it, brother. This ain't it. I understand. Furious 5. Yeah. I get it. I was there. But don't murder him to that. Well, please put the black medallion away if you're going to murder him. Just doesn't hit the same way.
Don't murder me to that.
You have Jerobe's pants from the Left My Wallet and El Segundo video.
Yeah, vintage thrift store finds.
When you look like you fell out of the African store at the inner city mall, it doesn't. No, that's not the murder fit you think it is, man.
Yeah, that's not.
And again, this is why I never get to be on Tavis Smiley's show.
Oh my gosh! But we do have super chats now.
Okay, I see some.
The hell with Tavis Smiley.
No, what happened was they went to Skid Row and paid homeless dudes to help them write their script.
I could see them.
I could see that.
I could see them doing that. Like, tell me your story.
How did you get here? All I heard was dirty shirts, morning pee. Okay.
Morning pee.
Because they didn't even wait till it was nighttime. They didn't even wait till nighttime to pay somebody to be like covert peeing.
It was broad daylight.
It's broad daylight. It's broad daylight on a dirty mattress. It's like everything they saw in a bad neighborhood, they thought were tools of that bad neighborhood. Like, you know how you leave your mattress out and no one touches it because it's gross?
Mm-hmm.
They thought that you take that mattress and then do stuff with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they must take these mattresses and sleep on them and do their breaking dances on them. Fascinating. They leave the tools out for people to use for free.
They're so resourceful. They do their breakdancing on broken windows.
If you remember Beat Street, I don't know if you remember this. When dude that does the graffiti has the he gets the girl pregnant and he has to like move out or whatever, and they find the abandoned house and they fix it up. They literally take stuff from the street. And when they're doing the montage scene, they're like, yeah, break dancing and rapping and picking up a mattress from the street. You don't really have much to eat.
You don't really have much to eat. Oh.
Nate says, great show, y'all. No clown and just show my appreciation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then the last one is the Enema Gang scene was cut from the Warrior.
Stop it.
Look at Yamaguchi. It's about that time. I love these horrible films, and I legitimately like. There's something about them, and I don't know if you feel the same. We did have different upbringings, because I've never double dutched. By the way.
Oh. You've never known the joy of beads in your hair and double dutch at the same time. It's a little painful. You gotta want it.
My vision of you as a young person is just Kim Fields in Season of Facts of Life. You're just roller skating through Harlem.
Oh my gosh. That's not a bad existence, roller skating through Harlem. Maybe not Harlem back then. I'll give you that.
Listening to not really violent hip hop, but horrible shit is going on around you. People getting their ass kicked for fucking Air Force Ones.
Yeah. Gotta do that. Air Force Ones. Jordan.
But I do love some of these films, and my problem is that Tubi, who really needs to pick us up as a sponsor, they have a factory of these hood films that I can't get enough of.
Jason, yesterday I went to the hairdresser and I watched a movie called Single Black Female. Too excited, Jason. He wanted to know about the movie. Too excited. The name of the movie was Single Black Female.
I know that movie.
Do you know both of the sequels?
I haven't seen the sequels.
You gotta watch the sequels.
I saw you know how you scroll on Tubi and it said Single Black Female, and I was like, it's like they're making them just for me.
I know. Did you see our friend was in it?
Who?
Friend to the show. Isn't she the friend to the show?
Who?
I thought she posted about us.
Who?
Amber Riley.
Like ow. Who?
Amber Riley. She's the black girl on Glee. There were other black girls, I think, but
she posted about our show?
Didn't she? Isn't she the one who's fan?
I remember that vaguely. What did we do?
Yeah.
We did something. What did we do?
Yeah, I never know what we do.
Were we a Majority Report or something?
Bram said he watches the show. The other lady said she watched the Sinners episode, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know.
We did some. Sometimes we'll do something. Sometimes it'll catch an algorithm, and people will be like, "I know those niggas," and then they'll write some like 10,000 word dissertation why they hate me and Pascal. But,
I know them niggas.
They're not black enough for me. I'm like, well, what the fuck do you want me to do? Fucking animal rape old people for you to like, at what limit? You know, what is your threshold of blackness? Like, let me know so I can know what to then do on the next episode.
Them niggas ain't black enough.
The most black fun I ever had on this show, where I literally forgot that no black people were watching, was that time that we had the Champagne Sharks on, like all of them.
Oh yeah. Wait, no. Yeah. When did we have all the Champagne Sharks?
We had main guy, Trevor, and the
Trevor.
young lady. I think it was just Trevor and the young lady.
Yes, it was just Trevor and the lady. We need to do the other sharks though at some point.
And I felt like that was one of those moments I totally forgot. Totally forgot. She's from Cali. She's from SoCal, but she's still, you know.
Yeah.
And she was from like the hood too. So it was just this kind of like a bond, automatic bond. And I just totally I'm afraid to watch that show because I'm like, I should probably take that down.
You two exclusively talk to each other for like half an hour, and no one can see my face, and I enjoy that. But you can see Pascal and Trevor's faces, and they're just like, "Wow, what time is it now?" Checking their watches, looking at the ceiling, like, when are these niggas gonna be done? It's
dude. We totally. Oh man, was that the episode that you said the black dude you dated told you weren't allowed to say the N-word because you didn't say it right?
I think so, probably.
I still think about that, and I'm like, if I ever saw that motherfucker, you remember like speaking up at the table. That you should have brought that scenario up.
Yeah.
That's what you just said. Jason, what about if I was at the table and that nigga said I couldn't say nigga? I'm like, well, then he would have got a fucking beer bottle to the head. That's what he did.
The nigga said I couldn't say nigga.
Or at least a very stern talking to.
He was like, you grew up in a house. Like, what?
Had your table scenario, had you made that the situation, I would have called up Ray Reid and Bert Cooper, and we just would have sat there and clowned that motherfucker for hella long for saying you grew up in a house. We're like, nigga, where did you grow up in? You life is hot in Cracktown ass motherfucker. You growing up on a pissy mattress?
He got it
Fucking walking stereotype ass dude.
I was like, grew up in a house? He was like, yeah, I saw it in the movie. I was like,
you grew up in a house. You had people that loved you. That's how people supposed to live, dumbass. You don't get mad at a motherfucker for having a good life. That's why you with her, because she's well adjusted, you idiot.
Fact. You had two parents. Everybody does.
You were born, you lab rat. You would fucking shit on that dude for a day and a half. Oh, hell no. How dare you tell someone what they can and can't say? You fuck right off. Fuck all the way off. That made me so... Just think... Sometimes I'll be in my house cleaning and think about that. Like, man, I wish I would have been there. How dare you talk about my sister like that?
It'd be like, look, I'm going to invite my friend Jason to this table.
Like, you just wait. I'm gonna bring my brother here. He gonna kick all your asses.
There you go.
Because I ain't shit, but I will tell him that he ain't shit in a very creative way.
Our brother's bigger than your brother.
Speaking of big dudes, because he's still here lurking. When Bram wrote that he was 6 feet at like 15, I was like, that motherfucker is hella tall.
He is, right? He's low key bragging that he was a Chad.
He's like, yeah, 6'4", you know. Got
no
big
big deal.
hands. Yeah, 6'4". All my clothes fit right. Yeah, 6'4". I got dope shoes because I live in the UK. I got dope shoes. I'm 6'4". How you living? Look at my sweatshirt, bitch.
Look at my wallet chain.
Look at my wallet chain. I'm 6'4", you raggedy bitches. I want to add some words. I want to add some words to the UK lexicon. I need Bram to start raggedy bitches. I think raggedy bitches.
Stop.
I was there for so long. I was stuck in Glasgow for so long that the people we were staying with were saying hella.
It's catchy like that.
They're like, it's hella fucked up. And this was 2013 before like everybody was saying hella. It was still our word. And by ours, I mean the Bay Area. Tucson got me laughing so hard I'm crying.
Before Gwen Stefani gave it to everybody.
How dare she? It's not even her word. It's a Bay Area word. It is not an Orange County word. It is our word. But that's how long I was there. And I feel like raggedy bitches is something that Bram needs to take and drop on these hoes, right?
Stop. Now you giving him things to take and then deconstruct later in an essay.
Raggedy. What is the raggedy bitch?
What's the essence of a raggedy bitch?
This is why Mike be having hella problems with me. I don't want Jason to write shit. I can't get one Adorno quote, but I can get a bunch of raggedy bitches. Nah.
A bunch of raggedy bitches.
Raggedy bitch is a good, because it goes for everybody. Everybody could be a raggedy bitch.
To quote Mark Fisher, a raggedy bitch.
That's how I know I made it. If someone says, to quote Jason, raggedy bitch just won that. So Toussaint said it shall be done. She may not be there because movie nights tend to be later for her, and she does have a day job. But which one should we do? You said Cracktown?
I don't know, because Cracktown sounds so outrageous. I feel like people are going to want to see it. We should let them vote on it. But Fly By Night is like really TIR canon.
Yeah.
I mean, we got the sound drama.
Bram, you should watch that. Don't watch that with nobody that you don't know that well.
Yeah.
Don't try to, if you got like sideways for like, oh, we kind of cool. Nah, don't do that. 'Cause they're gonna look at you real fucked up.
Don't watch it with anybody you wouldn't fart in front of. That's what that is. Now I'm the one at the table saying crass things.
You're the one at the table just and then just look at the motherfucking eye.
How you think I got at the table? It's my table now.
God damn. You've changed.
I have.
Where's the cute little fucking Marguerite from 4 years ago that gallivanted out to the thing in Brooklyn in your arty fucking outfit? What happened to that one?
Arty.
So fucking arty.
That's hilarious.
Toussaint totally dresses like you think an art student dresses.
Yeah, it was a little art teacher-ish.
But that's who you are. You went to school for art. You went to arts high school to go to arts college, and then you had an art job. The rest of your life. This is the only thing, the things that you do in your day job, and then you donating your time to do this is the only thing you do that isn't really arty. You don't even make the thumbnails.
Not anymore. I used to.
For like 5 seconds. You made thumbnails like 5 seconds.
For like 5 seconds. I was like, get me Photoshop or nothing.
Yeah. And she's like, give me Photoshop or nothing. And I was like, nothing. And she was like, pfft.
That's when I walked away.
Tim is chilling. T is chilling.
Down the road to the break. While I'm here, I like to thank Jean Bajlan for leaving thumbnails to me.
She fucking did the moonwalk off set, dude. Like, how'd you do the moonwalk like that?
It's
dude.
POV.
Did you see that guy Nate said he looked into that Jack Harlow hat we were shitting on for a good 30 minutes and said it was $540.
Wow.
Does Bram know the Jack Harlow hat? Bram, do you want us to invite you into this?
Come back, Bram.
He says, yeah, okay. I thought, I knew it was later where you were, so I assumed you were going to go live your life.
No, I've just been enjoying the chat back here, man. I'm definitely bringing raggedy bitches back.
He's been writing goofy shit in the private chat. If you see us look and start laughing, we're reading what Bram is saying.
That movie sounds wild, though. Like, I would need to watch that.
It's fucked up, man. I was doing this video essay. The last thing I did, me by myself, and it was about Black film. And I was just trying to find images and stuff on YouTube, and you know how YouTube will start suggesting stuff, and it started suggesting me stuff as I was looking for images for the movie Nigger Jim. It started suggesting me this movie called Fly By Night. It said hip hop classic, and it kept coming up. So I was finally done with the project, and I was like, well, let me watch this fly by night thing. And I have one of the Roku TVs in my living room, and I turned it on, and the movie started, and I was like, whoa. And I went to sleep, and I didn't believe what I saw as I was falling asleep. Because there's a scene in the movie, and this for me is where that movie just, I don't know if you feel the same way, Toussaint, where it just all comes together to be the perfect ball of what the fuck. After this riot, because people were like listening to rap music and they were just had to do violence. There's a scene with cops dancing, like synchronized dance moves with batons. And then it cuts to this black and white weird conversation that these people thought a Spike Lee movie would have.
I guess so.
Where like it ends with someone like pointing at the camera and check yourself. And I'm like, whoa, you put everything into this movie. You could have cut the dancing cops out and we still would have thought it was horrible. But you put the dancing cops in.
It was a total fever dream by that point. Like, what am I watching?
What is this? Why are they dancing?
They've got like weird lighting, weird lights going on, blue and red, and they're dancing. And oh my gosh.
You'd be surprised how many people love the crack.
What a line. What a line.
And what venue is always looking for rappers to book? Because I've never been there. We need new talent. No, you don't. Just fucking keep playing music. You're fine.
They like being insured. Yeah. Looking for rappers.
And I love the fact that the one white girl in the whole movie is always the only white person and is so comfortable.
Yeah, she's like, these are my people, man. She told her date to just like go home. Just F off, dude. I belong here.
When she told her date to kick rocks after she saw like 2 6'4" Negroes, I haven't laughed that hard in a long time.
So dumb.
Because I was like, people talk about white girls all the time, like, we white girl this and you like white girl. I was like, I've never met a white girl that wanted to bang me like the white girl that existed in that movie.
Yeah.
You know the song.
You
know the song "Born to Roll" by Master Ace.
Yeah, I love that song.
It's one of my favorites. But the bit like some of the imagery in that song when he's talking about like the white cops playing Elvis and then dancing on their squad cars, it's just too good.
So there's 2 versions of that song. There's Jeep Ass N-Word, which was the original video, very New York.
Yes.
And then Master Ace went to LA and he saw thick Latinas for the first time in his life. Which is weird because he's from New York.
No, he saw like Central American, South American ones. That's what it was.
Oh, is that what it was?
They're not from the Caribbean.
Lost his mind. Watch that video. Watch the Born to Roll video. The Braves song. If you're talking about Born to Roll with the dope beat, that Calvin beat. Dun, dun, dun. Watch that video and you see his eyes are as big as Oreo cookies throughout the whole video.
So stupid.
Because he's at his first ever car show and he's like, none of these women are going to wear clothes. Psh, why would I be in New York? It's cold here.
That's such an amazing song. Like I think that's the one that always blows my mind. The bar that always blows my mind when I'm listening to that is when he's imagining what the cops are saying to him and he actually uses the phrase "go back to Africa."
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck. That, like, especially as a white dude listening to that and a hip hop fan, you're just like, oh, he really went there. Holy shit.
He's an underrated. See, this is where Bram is full of shit when he says he doesn't talk about music that well. Master Ace, in my opinion, is one of those guys that if you're of a certain age, you have nothing but the utmost respect for him because he always brought it lyrically. And then the beats that were behind him were really, really good. I just don't know why he didn't break. I think it's timing. Timing is everything. In
I would definitely kill people to that music. Like, get the gat out.
I was born to roll. You could kill somebody to Born to Roll. You can kill somebody to Jeep ass N-word.
Yeah.
But you know what you can't kill somebody to? Wah, wah, bow.
Do you listen to any like grime or drill, Jason? Like the kind of British UK rap?
This is gonna make me sound like one of the white people that wrote these movies that we're joking about.
You're a Central C fan?
I don't differentiate between drill, grime, brill, fine. It's just rap is rap to me, right? And I don't know a lot of times where people are from unless they have those really heavy British accents. And I guess my first foray into the more mainstream of that shit would be the dude that had Fix Up Look Sharp. What was his name again?
Oh yeah,
Dizzy Rascal.
Dizzy Rascal. Dizzy Rascal. And then when I started hearing the joke guy, the guy that did the joke, the drill kind of joke rap, I can't think of his name. I think he's a comedian.
Was he talking about British dudes using swords in fights and stuff?
Yeah, we have to use swords. You can't get.
Yeah, and they're violent as shit too. Don't get it twisted. Don't think because the motherfuckers don't got. I was gonna ask you that, but it would have deterred from the conversation. But now that we're into this realm of tomfoolery, when I first went to Glasgow, I don't know anything about anywhere I'm at in the world, and I just assume because I'm American and I'm super arrogant, and I assume that we have this monopoly on violence and bad behavior. And then I went to Glasgow, and then I was
going down here. Yep.
Real quick. Check this out, homeboy. That whole city said, "Hey, check this out, homeboy. We may not have some of the same methods as you people, but don't get this shit twisted. You will get fucked up. Okay? We will fuck you up. And then we'll do some fucked up shit to you because we don't have guns like y'all have, but we have knives and swords, and it's nothing for us to decapitate a little shit talking motherfucker like yourself." So
I'm gonna have to send you this video. It's like this guy, he's a YouTuber, but he's like does satires of drill and grime culture, and he did a video which was like the top 10 most dangerous chicken shops in London. It's fucking amazing. He's just like rating them by how likely you are to get stabbed if you go to this chicken shop, and he's
please send that to me.
A different type of dudes that you will encounter there. There's another one he does which is like the top 10 most dangerous roadman outfits. He's like, if you see someone coming to you in an ankle length puffer jacket, like run in the other direction. He has a machete in there, you know, like
that shit is some of that shit that I've heard. Actually, what I've heard from the chicks has been fucking fire.
I'm gonna send you as well. Like, there's a video my friend made recently, which was like the top 10 Scottish rappers, and these are like, you know, mostly Caucasian dudes. But they're like, Scottish rap has a particular flavor, one that will probably never be very popular outside of Scotland. But I'd be interested to see what you would make of the, you know, like where that rates on that I could kill someone to this music scale.
I feel like you people, and I mean that in the most racist way possible, you people probably make really good murder music because y'all be murdering motherfuckers like it ain't shit. Y'all don't get ever
1066, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Battle of Hastings up in here. William the Conqueror right now.
Oh. There's this thing when you know, Toussaint, you know what it's like. You're from one of the worst places of I'm like everybody from New York goes to anywhere in the world. Like, I don't know I'm from New York, and it's like you're not there right now. We're gonna fuck you up real bad, homie. You get the Scotland. Hey, check this out, homeboy.
Yeah.
The first time somebody, and that's universal. I don't care where you are. I don't care where you are in the world. Someone is going to say the equivalent of they're going to do this. They're going to rub their hands together first. Hey, check this out.
Right.
That's your warning. Brant, you live on a different side of the planet. Am I lying?
I mean, So it's just interesting in it, like the way people imitate this stuff. Like the figure of the roadman is like you're kind of like your hero of grime and drill is the roadman. Man do road, like that means you're on the road, you're selling drugs, you're part of that street life.
Okay.
And that became like a really big trope as part of grime and drill getting very popular and mainstream. And now you hear guys up in Glasgow like emulating that voice, and I'm about to do a black accent here, so I apologize. Like you do hear people wandering around the south side of Glasgow where I live now, being like, "Yeah, bruv, yeah, I'm on road, man. I'm on road," and it's like, mate, like, why are you doing the London voice just because London rap is popular? That's very strange to me. And it's as well. It's like the uniform of the roadman is like, you know, the top to bottom black shell suit, tracksuit, with you know, the mask pulled up to there. And you see kids doing that. Like I saw like a young white dude coming out the gym, and he just finished working out, and he's like dressing up like this. I'm like, mate, what are you gonna do? You're gonna like rob a bank van? Like,
it's fucking Jack now. He's ready to go, dude.
He's literally putting in it's just like, whoa, bro. Like, yeah, the roadman aesthetic. It's by the time it's an aesthetic, you're not robbing anybody. Do you know what I mean?
It's uncomfortable where I'm from, because I've been gone from the Bay for 5 years, and when I go back, I am a tourist. So when I see young kids, especially MT's people, blacks, and they call them shiesties in the States, and they got the shiesties on. I'm like, yeah. You're going to have to get away from me, man, because when I see you walking up on me like that, I don't see that as a fashion aesthetic. I see that as robbery. Yeah. So I will hit you with my car.
There are stores out here where it says no shiesties allowed.
Can you blame them?
Yeah. Because during COVID, people were like, no, this is my mask.
Oh, word. Okay, well, this is my bat. Man, who do you think I want in this? You just tell me who you got in this. Go to the Poly Market. Let's see what the Poly Market says is going to win. Shiesty versus bat. Fuck that shit, man. If you look, this is going to sound like the old man rant. I don't give a fuck. If you walk around with a mask on like that and you think that shit is cute, look, man, all I see is you trying to fuck me up.
Yes.
Nah, man, can't have it. Sorry. From a different time. Sorry. I'll take a lot of fashion. I'll take sagging in your skinny jeans.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, listen, I'm from, we were talking about privilege earlier. I'm from a very privileged background. I grew up very middle class. I've had lots of opportunities. My family backed me. I'm very lucky in that. But I also kind of got into the rap scene about 20 years ago. Started making my own beats, making my own raps. And I tell you what, like, all the guys that I was scared of in high school because of the way they dressed, like, somebody rolling up on me in an Adidas tracksuit, I'd be like, I'm in trouble. Yeah. Right. Honestly, the rap scene in Scotland, like those guys, incredibly working class backgrounds, very often underprivileged, often been through some horrible shit. Those guys are the most welcoming motherfuckers, like the most friendly, open, fucking cool guys who just take you as they find you. Compare that to like your kind of indie rock guys with the acoustic guitars. Those motherfuckers will cut you. Like, they might talk tough in their raps, but like the Scottish rappers, those guys are they're all sound as fuck. Whereas honestly, if I see somebody coming up on me with like a cravat and a little mustache and a mohair jacket, like I'm crossing the road from that motherfucker. Like those are the guys I'm avoiding. Like you can come at me with your shiesty or your mask or whatever, and I'll be like, he's probably one of my people. That's cool.
Look, there's a few people I avoid at all costs. Anybody wearing a face covering probably is up to no good. I can't fuck with you. If you are Eastern European in a tracksuit, I don't want the smoke. If you are from a Southeast Asian country, man or woman, I don't want the smoke. You escaped genocide to get here just to fuck me up. Nah, I'm good, man. No, you know violence on a different level.
True. So you're not gonna fight Ilhan Omar?
Nope. Hell no. Nope. The savagery of that little woman. You see, she didn't get shook. That dude came and sprayed some goofy shit in her face, and she just stood there like, okay, that's all you got? Is goofy shit to spray on me?
Don't mess with hijabis. They are just not playing.
She's like, I'm 5 foot nothing. How you think I got this far? by not stabbing niggas. No, man, I'm good. I'm way good. If you came from a war-torn country, keep your ass back. I'm good.
Yeah.
If you sold your child for groceries, I'm good.
Both hands up. Just
I'm pulling my pants. And I said, good day, sir. Fuck that shit. Jason, you're stereotyping. I am. And I'm also I met a man, and I don't know how we got in this conversation. Before I moved to Mexico, I stayed with some friends in the Central Coast, and I would go to the beach. I would work out super early in the morning, and I would just go to the beach and stare at the water and ask myself how I failed to get to this part of my life. And one day, this Asian man walked up, and he just started talking to me. And me being the interviewer I am, I was like, oh. He had a thick accent, Southeast Asian. I was like, oh, where are you from? And he's like, oh, I'm from Laos. And jokingly, I said, were you in the Khmer Rouge? And he said, yes.
Wow.
And so that fucked me up. And then he went on talking about, I was like, wait, were you like one of the child soldiers? And he goes, they made a big deal out of that. You know, we couldn't really shoot anybody. Those guns were bigger than us. But I'm like, like, that's some crazy shit to have somebody say to you randomly. But regardless, that man was part of a genocide. And he was part of the genociding side.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not trying to cross him. What does death look like to him? What do consequences look like to him? Oh, man, that's what danger looks like. No.
Yeah.
Maybe he's reformed. I don't know. I don't want to find out.
Right.
So, no. Those are people I'm scared of. If you're just a random dude trying to talk loud, I don't really care. You don't want trouble. That's why you're talking loud. You know what I mean? But it's the ones that escaped a certain kind of atrocity or committed a certain kind of atrocity. You're like, oh,
anything to do with atrocities. You don't want anything.
Yeah. If you just like robbed some people, I'm like, I'll take my chances. I'm
take my chances.
But like when there's no like again, going to a country where there's no guns, like we have here, and people just they fight.
Yes.
And reading your story, that was the first thing I thought. I was like, oh yeah, they fight out there.
Yeah,
I
got the shit beat out of me at school, like on the daily. Like, fuck. Yeah, I've been punched in the nose a lot of times. Yeah, I've had like concussions off of shit that happened in school. Like, you'd be walking down the fucking, just walking down the corridor at school, get fucking cracked to the jaw out of nowhere. Yeah, it was lively. And I'm fucking middle class as fuck. Like, I went to a pretty good school. That's
what I'm saying. That y'all fight out there. Y'all fight out there a lot.
We fight
like a lot of fighting.
Yeah,
a lot of
but
fighting.
The blades thing. I mean, that's a big issue here, and I mean that connects back to the Manosphere stuff. It's like, you know, that show Adolescence a lot was about that as well. Like, these kids don't feel safe, right? So what do? They tool up. And that's how that shit escalates quickly. Because if you have a knife on you, like either you're going to use it or someone's going to clock you in the jaw and take it off you and use it on you, you know? Yeah, shit is real in these streets, even though we live in the land of 1066 and
look, can I give your whole hood a shout out right now? Some of the most fun I've had playing live music was in your hood. Some of the best people I've met in my 48 years of life are in your hood. That being said, don't get it twisted. You go there disrespected, you will get fucked up. You will get fucked up, and no one's gonna help you.
Yeah, you don't want to turn the wrong corner.
That was the thing that fucked me up the most about it. It wasn't even like drug turf shit. It was just like, this is not where you're supposed to be. And this is where you can't go, Jay. So don't look down that way. Don't look down that way. God damn, it's how you talked to me when I went to Juarez. Shit. The hood is Glasgow, Scotland. Wonderful place, full of great food. If you want to get a coronary after midnight, there might be no better. There's a thing that you people have called Munchie boxes.
Oh,
It's the Munchie box, like imagine all of the fast foods, and they just combine it into one box. So you got like your chips, your kebab, your pizza, like everything is in there, and it's all just they just shove it,
jam it in a box,
a box. Yeah,
and then you get hella sauces and
all that stuff.
Oh my God, Toussaint! Look at my face.
You were supposed to have Haggis.
I told you about the Haggis, right?
I don't think you did.
We stayed at this house, and they had a VPN, and they were getting the U.S. Food Channel, and they were like, "We got this show called Man versus Food, and there's all this stuff that he makes, and we've never have it here." And I was like, "Oh, well, what are you talking about?" I think some of it was like pulled pork and some other stuff. Like, what the hell is a meatloaf? And I was like, "I make all those things." And so they lived, now they're married, and it was a dude at the time, a dude and his girlfriend, and they lived next door to her parents. And so they weren't well off. So they called up the parents. It was like, there's an American in our house, and he says he can cook like Man versus Food if you buy him these things. So the mom came over to meet me, and the mom was like, oh, this is the American, he's gonna cook the food. So the mom would buy what I asked for, and I'd have to cook for both houses. But it was fun. I had so much fun, right? And so they said, if you do this, we'll make you our traditional dishes called haggis. And they were fucking with me. I had no idea what haggis is. And again, I also didn't know that every culture has chitlins. Right? The chitlins here, it's called menudo. They got haggis. I didn't know. And so I'm like, oh, what is a haggis? And then the dude we were staying with, he has the son. There was a little kid at the time. He couldn't have been more than like 11. He goes, it's an animal. It's kind of a mix between a bird and a fowl.
It's compulsory that we do this to outsiders, by the way, is convince them that the haggis is some sort of mythical beast. It's in the you got to sign the contract to do that if you want to live in Scotland. So
the mom made a very little bit of haggis because the dad was there, and he was like, I hate that bullshit. I'm not eating it. He was like yelling the whole time. I'm like, it's like, I think I have to eat it to be polite. And I ate a couple of like, are you finished now? And then the mom brought out like actual food and shit. Like, but no,
I love haggis, man. That stuff is salty as hell. It's real good.
Oh, it's you know what it is? It's chitlins for Scotland.
Did you have black pudding while you were here as like in your fried breakfast? So black pudding is just basically like a pudding. It's like a circular disc made of sheep's blood. Oh, it's fucking great.
Someone says his haggis bland as hell. Mine wasn't. It kind of reminded me of dirty rice.
Yeah, bad haggis is bland. Good haggis is so. Yeah.
But someone says, don't make me go to Scotland to eat more trash food. Again, I had so much for. They were like, oh, you got to cut the munchie boxes, and we kind of made the same face Toussaint made. Like, what the fuck is a munchie?
Yeah,
weird shit. I didn't come here for the fuck party. I came here to eat. And then when you see the pizza box and it's just so stuffed, like if you can close it right, then it's a bitch ass munchie box.
We have a thing called square sausage as well. I don't know if you encountered square sausage.
This MT's nickname in the streets.
It's just sausage meat, but it's square. But oh my god, what an innovation! Like what an innovation! Like you haven't lived until you've tried this, but it only exists in Scotland. Like you can't get square sausage anywhere else on the planet. So we've just kept this to ourselves. So yeah, if you want to come to Scotland and eat trash food, start with the square sausage. Move on to the haggis.
I drank my body weight. I drank my body weight in iron brew.
That stuff is like the crack of soda.
Oh wow!
Do you know what? Like, okay, here's an iron brew story. So like iron brew, everybody drinks it when they're hungover because it's just like a massive amount of sugar. But it always had a secret ingredient, and someone took them to court to find out what the secret ingredient was, and it's alcohol. It has like 0.
Drink.
It's 0.01% or something. Like it's, you know, a tiny amount. But apparently that's why if you chug a liter of it, if you're feeling a bit rough, makes you feel a bit better.
No way.
Yeah, that's some real shit. Yeah, it's
And
like
you can only
bright
get it there.
orange.
I've never seen it here in the States. I've never seen anybody try to bring it to the States.
Apparently, it outsells Coca-Cola in one other country than Scotland. I can't remember which country it is. It might be like
South
Romania.
Africa?
No, somewhere in Eastern Europe. They're just like,
Oh.
they love Iron Brew.
Again,
Weird.
somewhere where they are escaping a tyrannical government.
It just rains all the fucking time.
Actual Nazis. Like,
Yeah.
there's probably horrible, whatever country that is, there's probably some horrible shit going on and insane poverty. Nah, that's the drink of a hard motherfucker right there. That's a no joke ass dude. Well, look, I actually have a house guest and I have to go. But Bram, thank you for hanging with us actually this whole time.
No problem. Thank you for bringing me back in. That was fun.
And send me some more. What do you call it? Grime? What do you guys call that music?
Yeah, I'm gonna send you a couple
Drill?
of clips of what's going on here. Drill is an interesting one because they like made up their own dialect. Anyway, I will email you examples of all this stuff.
Some of them cats are dope as fuck to me.
Mm-hmm.
But
All these
again,
cats are in jail. So,
they're legit felons, right?
yeah, they rap about like actual murder, but they develop like a code thing where they're like you know, if you stab someone, they got splashed, things like that.
Okay.
Anyway, we can go down a whole rabbit
It's good to know that across international borders, you can never stop stupidity from telling on myself.
That's true.
Guys, stop telling on yourself. Jesus Christ. All right. Someone says, Bram, watch No Other Choice.
No Other Choice. Okay.
That was a really good movie, actually. I would love to read a review that you write on that movie. Did you watch Old Boy at all, Bram?
I fucking love Old Boy. Oh my god.
Same
I actually
director.
released an EP of rap music called Old Boy.
Based off the movie?
No, in Scotland, your old boy is your dad.
Oh, word.
And also, like, I am an old boy, which is why I'm 45 but have a wallet chain. So
I like
Like
the
a-
wallet.
double meaning there.
I have Vans on, so I don't know. Equally is like ridiculous. Toussaint's the only elevated one. She has some flowy pants when she actually leaves the house.
Oh, I
When I leave the house.
I actually downloaded No Other Choice, like earlier today. I'm really looking forward to
Oh, wow.
watching that. It's
Oh,
archaic
yeah, dude.
Joint. Yeah.
You know Ralph Leonard, right?
No,
You don't know Ralph Leonard?
I think so.
Okay, I'll do an email introduction after the show. But Ralph, who lives in the UK, I forget what part of the UK he lives in. He writes for some of the more red brown magazines. But he writes some good stuff, and he does write film reviews. And
Nice.
we started a show called Movies with Ralph, where some of the stuff he writes reviews on, we'll actually talk about the movie and then show it for patrons. And he had wrote about No Other Choice. It sounded interesting. I watched it and it blew my mind when it comes to really depicting middle class insecurity in a way that I don't think anyone else really is, and how those fears don't manifest into any sort of like uprising that people think where you're going to eat the rich, how it just manifests into defeating your competition, because that's really where that segment of the middle class, or as Catherine Liu calls them, the
100%.
PNC really is.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought about it. Toussaint didn't join us because she's too good for movie news.
I am. But is Ralph a Muppet?
I made him a Muppet on the.
You made him a Muppet on the thumbnail, and I'm like, what's going on here?
I found out how to do that, and I went through a 3-day phase where every thumbnail I made had to have Muppets on it, and then I stopped.
Oh my gosh.
I did make Ralph a Muppet, and I'm glad he didn't notice. Don't bring that up when you talk to him next time.
Oh, don't? Okay.
Do not. I don't know what his black existence was like living where he's from. I'm sure he got called a lot of names that wasn't his.
Muppet was maybe one of them.
Muppet. Hey, there was a Muppet, hey! Why do I talk British like Mary Poppins extras? They say that as they go sweep the chimney when I do the accent. I'm not even going to try to do a Scottish accent.
I mean, neither am I. So.
Yeah, someone was actually commenting on how you don't have the Glaswegian accent, and I know you actually write about that because you weren't born or you grew up in a different part.
That's right. I grew up in the south of England. My family's all Scottish. Well, my dad is Dutch, which is why I have a weird name. But yeah, they're all originally from Scotland, but I grew up like down in the south of England and moved up here when I was 10 or 11. But there's a rule, which is that if you sound English, it doesn't matter how long you've been here, you're still fucking English. Like you have to sound Scottish. If you moved here 5 minutes ago, but you can do the accent, you're cool. No one's going to question you.
That's real shit.
That's
But that's why I sound strange. But it's how we pick out outsiders is accents.
We do too here. Americans don't like if you sound like you're from somewhere else. They're like, oh, where are you from? Yeah.
That is a very American thing to do.
Yeah.
Melting pot my ass. That's what Toussaint says.
I'm one of these rare white boys who regularly gets the question, where are you really from?
Oh. Oh. There's fighting words here.
That you know where that happens in the States though, seriously, is there's a highway, there's an interstate that bisects the South. It's called the I-10. And once you get to like Louisiana, if you live above the I-10, they call you a Yankee. Like, oh, you don't have that like Cajun accent or whatever. You're not a real, like whatever you're supposed to be. And I'm like,
yeah, we do something similar here. People from Edinburgh are not considered Scottish.
Really?
No. It's too middle class.
damn.
And that's where I grew up. So on every count that you could, like, the only thing Scottish about me is the fact that I'm actually physically in Glasgow.
That's fucked up.
Oh,
Bitch
yeah,
ass Edinburgh, dude.
All types of like levels to that shit, man. Yeah.
Now you see why Raggedy Bitch got to come out. You be like, oh, I don't want to be like you raggedy bitches over there.
Do you know what we call hillbillies?
Americans?
Teuchters.
What?
What? Jew what?
It's so not Jew anything. No, I'll spell it. I'll put it in the private chat.
Yeah, please do, because I think if this goes public, we will get hit with a strike.
Ters, Teuchters. That means country folk.
Teuchters.
Teuchters.
Yeah, I couldn't say that. If I tried to say that, I'd bet Teuchters. Teuchters.
Oh my god, this is the funniest part of the show.
Trying to teach us racisms in a different country. That should be what we're known for. Oh, you work for TIR? Aren't those the people that find out racisms around the world? Why, yes, I am.
Teucher. See, Tyra Banks has this thing in modeling where she's like booty tooching. And you stick your butt up when you're posing. So I would think Teuchters would be like someone sticking their butt up.
Booty Teucher?
You really got to get that in there. It's like Teuchters.
Teuchters. Yeah, practice.
I'm definitely going to get punched in the face when I go back to Scotland. As soon as I get off the plane. What is this Teuchter bullshit?
Don't say that.
TIR, team of international racism. We got to stop doing that, right, Toussaint? Should we stop being so internationally racist?
Dusty in the chat says it's a Viking N-word.
Nothing would surprise me.
Right?
Dusty, if I'm not mistaken, is from Israel. So how does he even know what that is? That means that he has been studying how to say N-word all over the world.
He said, damn Viking Edward.
That is a whole different award tour you were on, does it? Damn. A Viking N-word. Can't you see these young dudes, Toussaint, though, trying to play that up, the Viking N-word?
It's going to be a privileged discourse.
My family's actually from the Orkney Islands, right? And the Orkney Islands was like a Viking stronghold. Like at one point, the Orkney Islands was the southern tip of the Viking Empire. If you go up there, they've got these like Neolithic Stone Age fucking burial chambers built by, you know, our distant ancestors. But the Vikings actually like went on the island and they got trapped in a storm, and they went inside one of these burial mounds and they left all types of graffiti. And of course, it looks beautiful because it's written in these Viking runes. But if you translate it, it says stuff like Ragnar's wife is a slag.
Ragnar. That's fucking crazy. That graffiti for
like,
years is just
nothing has changed since 1200 or whatever it was.
Nothing has changed since before Christ. It's just dicks and your mom's a whore. That's all it is.
That's what it is.
Oh, fuck. Well, look, if you guys enjoyed this is what the champagne room is like. If you enjoyed the serious first 2 hours of the show, become a patron. Also, again, wherever you're watching or listening to this show, I have links to follow Bram, support the work that he's doing. This Crisis of Masculinity series is not just a bunch of, 1,000-word laments. They're very well thought out essays. There's guest writers in there. I'm in there as well if you give a hot damn about anything I have to say. So please check that out. And on behalf of Toussaint, I will say...
Wait, I'm back. Leave us comments. We did a fight on air for you. Leave us a comment.
Damn. Was it a fight or was it just a family dispute?
Family dispute that Bram settled, as he is part of our family.
That's fair. He did come in there as the voice of reason.
Warm fuzzies.
That's the you know what? That's why you need a white cousin by marriage. Bram came in like the white, like your one cousin is with the one white dude, right? The one white dude that's hella cool that you let. He's at the table because he's hella cool. Like, oh, Bram, we just playing dominoes. Come on over. Come through.
100% there.
He hella pulled that move. As Toussaint and I had an argument from years past, right? That's one of those like built up, and that's why you told on me in the 3rd grade. So shout out to white cousins by marriage.
Yay!
Everybody needs one. Yeah. See, even Anton said one of those comical brother and sister battles. Yeah. That's what we're here for. We're here to give you guys that. Bram is here to be the Scottish voice of reason that you didn't know you needed.
Half Viking.
Half Viking.
There's a little bit of Viking in there. Yep.
Yeah.
So I think this show was very fruitful.
Mm-hmm.
The first half of it is going to give you a lot to talk about. The second half of it is going to give you a lot to be like, God, these people once again.
That's right. That's what we do.
Dusty says Vikings weren't racist.
That's true. It was a multicultural society, which is wild because it's not depicted that way.
No, it's not.
That's
I
fucked
guess
up.
It went to Constantinople.
That's hella fucked up.
They wore braids. I like it.
Oh God, you want to get me in so much trouble.
White dudes who wear braids, shut up.
God.
Well, they weren't necessarily white, but still.
You're gonna get me in so much trouble. This is why we can't get over in the black side of YouTube.
Shout out to David Beckham.
Once we say white people had braids first, then you just
I didn't say first.
Oh. Everybody knows the Vikings had drones. And they fucking were videotaping black people do hair to make slave maps.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Let's not open up another controversy.
And Lefty just said no. Yeah. Braids is that's the bridge too far for MT. So thank you guys. Let's go out with cartoons.
Yeah.
What are we?
Out.
Peace.
Peace.
What's wrong? We are
Out.